Chapter 150. After successfully building his foundation, Wang Daoyuan's dantian's capacity had more than doubled, and his meridians had also widened by nearly 2 times. In addition, the quality of his spiritual power had increased. After the quality of his true essence reached the level of a first-level foundation establishment cultivator, it was difficult to compress it. Thus, he decided not to take the next step. Instead, he merged a portion of the true essence into his blood to form essence blood. The essence blood flowed all over his body, strengthening every part of his body. His spiritual power had also improved greatly. The total volume had nearly doubled and the quality had also improved greatly. The difference between spiritual power before and after building his foundation was so great. It was no wonder that chi refinement cultivators couldn't practice the sword kinesis technique. After stabilizing his cultivation, he walked out of the cave and found a large group of people gathered in front of the door. After all, the commotion just now was too big and lasted for too long. Seeing him come out of the cave, the crowd cheered. The clan had another foundation establishment cultivator and they were even more powerful. Moreover, he was a second-level middle-grade talisman master. After building his foundation, he would definitely become a third-level talisman master. In the future, the clan would open the exchange of second-level talismans, which would be very beneficial to everyone. He had never revealed that he was a second-level upper-grade alchemist. Otherwise, these people would have fainted from excitement. After the crowd dispersed, the clan leader took out a white jade sword and said, "This was obtained by the ancestor when he was young. It's called the Wind Sword, a second-level middle-grade wind attribute magic weapon. No one in the clan could use it. You have all 5 elements, so you can use any attribute magic weapon. I'll give it to you. This magic weapon's attack power is average, but it has one advantage. It can increase your speed by 30% when flying on the sword. If you like to run around with the Wind Sword, you'll be safer. The sword kinesis technique is on the 3rd floor of the Hidden Scriptures Tower. You can learn it yourself." Wang Daoyuan took the Wind Sword and ran to the Hidden Scriptures Tower. He found that Taigong was already sleeping under a tree. He took the jade slip that recorded the sword kinesis technique from the 3rd floor of the Hidden Scriptures Tower and asked Taigong to remove the restriction. After memorizing it, he immediately began to cultivate. After all, flying was everyone's dream. In this life he had only flown once, and it was when he rode Yun-Yi off a cliff. When he landed, he slid more than 20 feet. The flying experience was too bad. Although the imperial sword technique was powerful, it wasn't complicated. After all, the sword kinesis technique collected by the Wang family was only the most ordinary one. It could not be mentioned in the same breath as the sword kinesis technique of sword cultivators. It only took him half a day to be able to control the flying sword to attack. However, it was not good to use the shocking wind sword to attack. After all, he had the 5 elements spiritual root, not the wind spiritual root. In order to drive the wind shockwave sword, one had to fuse the wood and water attribute spiritual energy into the wind attribute spiritual energy. With this additional process, one's reaction speed would be slowed down. In a battle of magical powers, the slightest bit of slowness could cost one's life. When flying on a sword, it didn't matter. That was to continuously inject spiritual energy into the flying sword, so it didn't require much reaction speed. After he got used to controlling the flying sword, he began his first flight on the sword. His spiritual energy wrapped around his feet and sword, making him feel as if he was a part of the sword. There was no feeling of discomfort. After circling around the Wang clan's territory on his sword and grasping the basics of sword kinesis flight, he returned to Jade Spring Peak. His spiritual energy was more robust than that of a first-level foundation establishment cultivator, and he also had the shocking wind sword to boost his speed. He could fly about 1,500 miles in 2 hours, which was comparable to an ordinary 4th-level foundation establishment cultivator. But an ordinary 1st-level foundation establishment cultivator could only fly about 1,000 miles in 2 hours. After returning to Jade Spring Peak, he immediately went into his cave residence and used his divine sense to enter the space of the Spirit Pearl to take a good look at the changes in the space of the Spirit Pearl. As expected, the space of the Spirit Pearl expanded again, reaching an area of 40 mu, and the flow of time was 40 times faster than the outside world. The concentration of spiritual energy in the space had also reached the level of a mid-grade 2nd-rank spiritual vein. At this time, Yun-Yi, Golden Wing, and more than 10 fierce blood boars in the space of the Spirit Pearl had all entered a state of deep sleep. When demonic beasts broke through a large realm, they would usually enter a deep sleep. Yun-Yi tiger, golden wing goshawk and fierce blood boar were originally second-rank demonic beasts. After living in the space for hundreds of years, they had accumulated enough. He didn't know if it was because of the suppression of the space of the spirit pearl or because of his own cultivation, but they had been unable to advance. Now that he had succeeded in building his foundation, the space of the spirit pearl had become stronger again, and these spirit beasts could also advance. The 20 mu of land in the space still had to be properly arranged. He was already a foundation establishment cultivator, and many first-rank spiritual objects were no longer needed. As for the spiritual herbs used to refine first-rank medicinal pills, he would leave some seeds for spare and no longer plant them. He would increase the planting area of second-rank spiritual plants. Over the years, the Qing River carps in the fish pond had also bred for many generations. However, under the suppression of Wang Daoyuan, his clone, and the spirit beasts, there were never more than 300 of them. Coupled with a large number of pseudo-spirit fish, the 2 mu of fish pond was a little tight, so the fish pond was increased to 4 mu. There were also hundreds of jade butterfly orchids planted beside the fish pond, and there were many ranked reeds in the shallow water. The goldfish spiritual algae obtained in the spiritual spring cave residence had grown all over the pond, enough for the Qing River carps and pseudo-spirit fish to eat. There was no need to feed them. There were many kinds of delicacies in the space, and the demand for spiritual grains was not great. However, spiritual grains flowers were an important source of honey for soul-chasing bees, so he continued to plant 3 mu of spiritual grains. Red blood wine was an important resource, and red blood ginseng was planted in 5 mu of land. There were more than 30 jars of red blood wine more than 500 years old in the space. A peak foundation establishment cultivator only needed to drink 1 or 2 jars to recover all their spiritual power. After all, the raw materials of red blood wine were first-rank spiritual herbs. Although the effect could be enhanced over time, it could not be enhanced infinitely. At present, its effect had reached its limit. No matter how many years it was stored, the effect of restoring spiritual power would not be significantly increased. Purple cloud grass was the best raw material for second-rank talisman paper, so he naturally could not abandon it. The planting area was increased to 5 mu. The second-rank medicinal pills in the space of the spiritual bead were rejuvenation pill, vitality pill, and soul-strengthening pill. He planted 2 mu of rejuvenation pill and 3 mu of spiritual herbs needed for vitality pill and soul-strengthening pill. He kept 2 mu of foundation establishment pills supplementary herbs. He did not need foundation establishment pill, but there were so many people in the family, and he could not rely on himself to strengthen the family. He planted 1 mu of blood jade ginseng. Blood jade ginseng was not only the main ingredient for foundation establishment pill, but also could be used to refine high-rank healing medicinal pills. He also kept 1 mu of dragon vine. In addition to refining foundation establishment pill, it could also be used to refine poisons. He planted 5 mu of red scale pine. As an alchemist, he might need to practice refining techniques in the future, so he could not lack spiritual wood for burning charcoal. Moreover, the red scale pine nuts tasted good and could provide fire tribute spiritual power. The spirit forbidding silkworms in the space had already multiplied for more than 10 generations, and he had accumulated a few hundred kilograms of silk. However, he did not know how to refine weapons, so it was still piling up. This item was very valuable to a family, but to him it was nothing. There was no need to plant too many mulberry trees, so he only planted 2 mu. The jasper watermelon did not need to be planted alone. It could be planted in the red scale pine and mulberry forest. Green jade bamboo and purple gold alfalfa were planted in 1 mu. The golden silk spirit jujube did not have much value to him anymore, so he could transplant it into the 5-element secret realm in the future. Other than planting these spiritual plants, he also set aside 1 mu of land to make a pig pen. The other spiritual beasts were easy to manage. They were quite obedient as long as there was food. Although the Uni tiger and the golden-winged goshawk were active, they only played in the air and did not destroy the spiritual plants. Only the fierce blood boar was difficult to deal with. Once it was happy, it would destroy the spiritual plants, so he had to find a special place to pen it. Other than that, he also set aside 1 mu of circular spiritual fields with the peach sapling and life spiritual fire as the center to plant precious spiritual plants that were not easy to survive. For example, the hidden cloud tea. In other places, it would be difficult to even survive. However, it could thrive near the life spiritual fire. The true essence fruit tree was also planted near the life spiritual fire. The life spiritual fire's flame was already 5 inches tall. Unfortunately, the peach sapling did not grow at all. It was just that the spiritual power fluctuation had become stronger. It had already reached the level of a mid-grade rank 2 spiritual plant. Chapter 151. After dealing with the matters in the spirit pearl, the next step was to head to the 5 elements mystery realm and refine the 5 elements heaven suppressing seal. After Wang Daoyuan built his foundation, he could cultivate the second level of the 5 spirits immortal art and refine the second type of spiritual item. There was no spiritual item more suitable for him than the dust-returning flame sealed in the 5 elements heaven-suppressing seal. Wang Daoyuan invited the clan leader, 9th uncle and 12th uncle together. It was time to tell them about the mystery realm. When the 3 of them arrived, Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "I have something important to announce. This must be kept secret, so I didn't inform the other elders. I found a place for our Wang clan that will never change. It's a mystery realm that can accommodate all of our Wang clan's cultivators and mortals." The 3 of them were stunned for a long time. Clan leader Wang Xian was the first to react. He asked, "Really? What's the situation with that mystery realm? Can I joke about this?" Wang Daoyuan answered. "That mystery realm is half natural and half man-made. It's called the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. It was originally a mystery realm that was about to collapse. An ancient cultivator guided the spirit veins into it. After many years, the mystery realm regained its vitality. That ancient cultivator passed away in meditation in the 5 Elements Mystery Realm and left behind his inheritance. The cultivation technique that I cultivate is from him. Now the 5 Elements Mystery Realm has 5 Elements spirit veins providing spirit energy. It's a circular space with a diameter of 100 miles. There are many spirit plants, spirit springs and earth fire. 1/5 of the area is filled with level 1 and level 2 mines. More than half of the area can be developed into spirit fields and farmland. After hearing his description, the 3 of them were full of yearning for the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. Wang Shi asked while drooling, "The mystery realm of the ancient cultivator is at least 10,000 years old. Is there any spirit wine in the cellar?" Everyone glanced at him. Everyone was looking forward to the bright future of the Wang clan. "Can't you be more promising by talking about this?" Wang Shi smiled awkwardly. "Daoyuan, please continue. We're all listening." Wang Daoyuan continued, "This mystery realm is at the intersection of the Huiyan mountain range and the Sky/Mountain range. It's about 500 miles south. There's a 10-mile wide land of no spirit, so there's no need to worry about safety. The only troublesome thing was how to move the clansmen over. The best route was to head east along Huiyan Mountain, then head south at the junction of the 2 mountains. However, along the way the various clans had many properties and there were innumerable loose cultivators. It was not possible to secretly move them. If we don't go back to Wild Goose Mountain Range, we'll have to head east. It's too dangerous to travel thousands of miles in the Heaven/Mountain Range." Chief Wang Xian pondered for a moment and said, "We can move a small number of clansmen there and carry out a simple development first." For more than 20 years the Netherworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace had been fighting at the border. Although there were no major problems in the long run, it was inevitable that a war would break out. The current stable situation won't last long. We have to make preparations as soon as possible. Wang Daoyuan continued, "I'm the only one who can enter that mystic realm. I need to refine the core of the mystic realm before I can control it and allow others to enter. I tried once before, but unfortunately my divine sense wasn't strong enough to refine the core of the mystic realm. Now that I've reached the foundation establishment stage, my spiritual sense should be enough. I want to give it another try." Chief Wang Xian pondered for a moment and said, "I'll go with you. Let's take a look at the situation first before deciding what to do next. Shui, after Daoyuan and I leave, you'll be in charge of the clan's important matters." Wang Shi probed, "Fifth uncle, why don't you stay at Jade Spring Peak while I go with Daoyuan to take a look?" Wang Xian asked with a fake smile, "What do you think?" Wang Daoyuan comforted him and said, "12th uncle, just stay at Jade Spring Peak. If we can really find spiritual wine, I'll leave some for you." Wang Daoyuan and the chief changed into loose cultivators and left Jade Spring Peak together, using Earth Escape to head northeast. When they reached the intersection of the two mountains, they came out from underground and headed south. Wang Daoyuan released the soul-chasing bees to open a path in front. Previously he had never exposed the existence of the soul-chasing bees in front of others, but now he had no choice but to do so. After entering the heaven/mountain range without the soul-chasing bees to open a path, even if both of them were Foundation establishment cultivators, it would be difficult for them to come out alive. Wang Xian saw him release the soul-chasing bees and asked, "When did you raise a spirit bee?" Wang Daoyuan answered, "It's been many years. I got it from killing an assassin. It's just that this spirit bee is related to the Myriad Spirit sect, and I suspect that the assassin is also from the Myriad Spirit sect. I've never dared to use this spirit bee in front of others. This spirit bee is good at finding spiritual items. All these years I've given the clan so many spiritual herbs, and most of them were found by the spirit bee." Wang Xian smiled and said, "You're really lucky. No wonder others enter the heaven/mountain range and have a slim chance of survival. Entering the heaven/mountain range is like entering your own backyard." With the soul-chasing bees opening a path, they didn't encounter any demonic beasts along the way. They easily arrived near the small mountain where the Five Elements Mystery Realm was located. When they arrived at the land of void spirits, Wang Xian said excitedly, "It's really a natural moat. With this land of void spirits, we don't have to worry about being harassed by demonic beasts." The two of them arrived in front of the five-colored boulder. Wang Daoyuan placed his hand on the boulder and soon the boulder automatically moved away, revealing the door behind it. Wang Daoyuan said, "Fifth great uncle, please wait here for a while. I'll go in and refine the core of the mystery realm first." After saying that, he walked into the door and the door automatically closed. After entering the stone room where the Five Elements spiritual master's remains were, he knelt on the futon and kowtowed 3 times. He said, "Disciple Wang Daoyuan from another generation greets Master. Today disciple wants to bury Master in the Five Elements mystery realm. I hope Master won't blame me for disturbing Master's remains." After learning Master's cultivation technique, the status of Master and disciple was inevitable. The cultivation world had always valued the status of Master and disciple, so kowtowing was reasonable. After bowing, he moved out his doppelganger from the space and a simple stretcher. He placed the remains of the Five Elements spiritual master on the stretcher. He and his doppelganger carried the remains of the Five Elements spiritual master into the mystery realm and buried them beside the altar. They erected a tombstone with the words, "Tomb of Master Five Elements Spiritual Master," erected by disciple Wang Daoyuan from another generation. After burying the Five Elements spiritual master, Wang Daoyuan gave the golden silk spirit jujube and some spiritual plants that he didn't need to his doppelganger to plant in the mystery realm. He stood on the altar and activated the restriction, sinking into the ground with the altar. Once again he went to the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal and forced out a drop of blood essence, dripping it on the seal button of the seal. The Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal began to move very quickly. It flickered with a bright light and was slightly trembling. Wang Daoyuan immediately probed it with his divine sense and began to condense the divine sense brand. With the previous experience and the success of the Foundation establishment, the power of his divine sense had more than doubled. Condensing the divine sense brand again was much smoother. It took him 6 hours to condense a complete divine sense imprint. After the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal recognized him as its master, the power of a middle-grade 4th-rank magic tool erupted. If he wasn't the owner of the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal, he, a Foundation establishment cultivator, would have been directly shocked to death. At this time, looking at the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal again, although its appearance was no different from before, it had more spirituality and a trace of majesty. The formation patterns around the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal also became brighter. The concentration of spiritual qi in the 5 spirit veins that were drawn over by the formation also showed a trend of slowly increasing. Chapter 152. After Wang Daoyuan refined the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal, he learned some information about it. The Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal's main function was to suppress and was not suitable for fighting. It was not that it was not powerful. On the contrary, the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal's lethality was very strong, but this lethality depended on its weight. The seal would become heavier when it was injected with the Five Elements Spirit Qi. Back then, the five elements spiritual master was at the peak of the golden core realm and could not see its maximum weight. With its great weight, it could smash someone to death. It was just that its weight was too heavy and it consumed a lot of spirit chi and spiritual sense when it was used. Its speed was not fast and it was difficult to hit someone. If it was used to deal with enemies who could not move freely, it would be a one-hit kill. However, the five elements heaven suppression seal was now the core of the five elements secret realm. Once it was damaged in a fight, the five elements secret realm would also be implicated. Moreover, the five elements heaven suppression seal could not leave the secret realm for a long time or go too far. Otherwise, the secret realm would collapse if it lost contact with it. If an enemy attacked the secret realm, he could use the five elements heaven suppression seal to defend. These were all very far away. With Wang Daoyuan's current foundation establishment cultivation, it was not easy to successfully recognize him as its master. If he wanted to use it to fight an enemy, he might not be able to make it leave the ground even if he injected all his spirit chi and spiritual sense, let alone use it in a fight. Wang Daoyuan did not expect to use it in a fight. Suppressing the secret realm was more important. Since he had refined the five elements heaven suppression seal, it was time to take out the sealed dust returning flame. The five spirits immortal art was the best choice to refine the five elements spirit fire as it had a strong growth potential. Among the five elements spirit fire, the fire element spirit fire was the easiest to find. High-level fire element demon beasts might have a spirit fire and magma could nurture a spirit fire. It was not impossible to obtain a fire element spirit fire by paying a huge price. The other four spirit fires were much rarer. He already had one and was about to have a second one. If he could get a fire element spirit fire that was easier to find, he would not have to worry about reaching the Purple Mansion realm. After reaching the Violet Palace realm, he would have a lifespan of 500 years. He could take his time searching for the Returnance flame before him. He had already refined the five elements heaven suppressing seal. As long as he used the power of his consciousness, he would be able to retrieve the dust returning flame. He injected his spiritual sense into the seal, and through the spiritual sense imprint he controlled it to release the returning dust flame. The Kirin statue on the button emitted an earthy yellow light that grew brighter and brighter. Then a wisp of earthy yellow flame shot out from the Kirin statue's mouth and condensed into a 5-inch tall earthy yellow flame. The returning dust flame had been in the five elements heaven suppression seal for an unknown number of years and had always been nourished by the spirit vein. The ripples of spiritual energy it emitted were comparable to that of an ordinary Zifu disciple, and far beyond what the life spirit flame could compare to. With Wang Daoyuan's current cultivation, it was impossible for him to refine the entire spiritual fire. However, his goal was not to refine the entire dust-returning flame. He only needed to draw out a little bit of the flame, extract the special spiritual energy within, and condense it into an earth-type spiritual energy seed. Now was not the time to cultivate. It would take a few days to successfully condense the spiritual energy seed. The patriarch was still waiting outside. He left the underground cave where the five elements heaven suppression seal was, restored the altar to its original state, and put his doppelganger back into the spiritual pearl. The five elements heaven suppression seal was not only the core of the five elements secret realm, but also the core of all the formations in the secret realm. Through it he could control the opening and closing of the formations. At this moment he had already refined the five elements heaven suppression seal. Although he was limited by his cultivation and could not fully activate it, and could not do much, controlling the opening and closing of a few doors was still very simple. He used his spiritual sense to communicate with the spiritual sense imprint in the heaven suppression seal and closed the formations on the two doors outside. While waiting outside, Wang Xian also checked the surrounding environment so that it would be easier for him to set up defenses in the future. Just as he came back from checking, the five-colored boulder at the foot of the mountain suddenly moved away, revealing the door inside. He saw Wang Daoyuan walk in from here with his own eyes. He was not worried and walked in directly. After passing through a few doors, he entered the five elements secret realm. Although he already knew about the secret realm from Wang Daoyuan, he still could not suppress the excitement in his heart when he saw the scene in the secret realm with his own eyes. He could not believe his eyes and asked, "Daoyuan, this is the five elements secret realm?" "Yes." He pointed at the altar and said, "Below this altar is the core of the five elements secret realm. I have already refined it and this secret realm is completely under my control." Wang Xian looked at the tomb beside the altar and asked, This 5 elements spiritual master is the senior who left behind the 5 elements secret realm and his inheritance. Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "Yes, I have received his inheritance. I have already gone through the ceremony of becoming his disciple." Wang Xian bowed to the tombstone and said, "Junior cultivator Wang Xian greets senior." The Wang family was able to stay in the 5 elements secret realm because of senior's legacy. Junior dares to invite senior's memorial tablet into the Wang family's ancestral temple. In the future, as long as the Wang family is not destroyed, senior's legacy will continue. After saying that, he bowed again. Wang Xian patrolled the entire secret realm and said, "This secret realm is indeed an everlasting foundation. Daoyuan, in your opinion, how should we develop it?" Wang Daoyuan thought for a while and said, "My opinion is to first move some inconspicuous people in the family over and carry out a simple development. In the future, we can open up a few businesses between the Jade Spring Peak and the 5 elements secret realm as a transfer station and gradually move some of the family's mortals over. There is also the problem of the array formation of the secret realm's doors. Now only I can control this array formation and I can't stay here forever. Master is a rank 4 array master and I don't have the ability to change his work. It's better to close the array formation of the door and change it to another array formation." Wang Xian said, "In the family's secret treasury, there are still some array discs that the old ancestor obtained back then. They can be used on the door. Then that's it, I will go back and bring a few clansmen over to stay here." After saying that, Wang Xian was about to leave. Wang Daoyuan took out the golden wings that had successfully advanced to rank 2 low grade from the space and said, "It's not easy to walk in the sky/mountain range, it's safer to let the golden wings lead the way." After Wang Xian left, he began to cultivate the second level of the 5-spirit immortal transformation technique, extracting the essence of the dust returning flame and condensing the earth attribute spirit power seed. The use of the dust returning flame was recorded in the 5 elements spiritual master's manual. The dust returning flame could rely on earth attribute spirit chi and all earth attribute spiritual objects to burn. In addition, anything within the 5 elements would be corroded and decomposed into spirit chi when it touched the dust returning flame. Wang Daoyuan's consciousness entered the space of the spiritual pearl and saw the effect of the dust returning flame. He saw that the dust returning flame landed in the center of the entire spiritual pearl's space. This was the spirit field where the scarlet blood ginseng was planted. With the dust returning flame as the center, all the scarlet blood ginseng within a 1-foot diameter disappeared. He threw a stalk of spirit grain over and in a few breaths, it turned into spirit chi and dissipated, leaving only a bit of ash. Then he threw a bamboo pole of green jade bamboo over, and in less than 100 breaths, the bamboo pole turned into pure wood attribute spirit chi, leaving only a pile of ash on the ground. When spiritual objects of other attributes were thrown in, without exception, they were all decomposed into spirit chi, leaving behind a pile of ash without any spirit power fluctuations. Chapter 153. 4 Phase of different attributes. The dust return flame's decomposition speed was different. Wood attribute and water attribute phase decomposed very quickly, while metal attribute phase decomposed the slowest. Raw materials decomposed very quickly, but after being refined into magic artifacts, they decomposed very slowly. He threw a mid-grade tier 1 magic artifact longsword over. After 2 hours, the longsword's surface only had holes in it. But if he threw a metal attribute or over, it would be completely decomposed into spirit chi in less than 15 minutes. The higher the grade, the slower the decomposition speed. The lower the grade, the faster the decomposition speed. The fastest things decomposed by the dust returning flame were still living things or their corpses. Rank 1 spirit plants and spirit beasts would be reduced to a pile of ash in less than 10 breaths of time if they were thrown onto the dust returning flame. High-grade spiritual plants and spiritual beasts would be decomposed slower. Wang Daoyuan was overjoyed. Such a decomposing attribute could be used against enemies, especially against spiritual beasts. He could directly attach the spell to the enemy and slowly decompose them. After learning about the dust return flame's powerful ability, he couldn't wait to start cultivating the second stage of the 5-spirit immortal transformation art. He still used the old method to condense a ball of earth attribute spirit power and send it into the spirit pearl's space to envelop a small portion of the flame. He then used his divine sense to cut off this small portion of the flame from the rest. This small portion of the dust return flame continued to burn in the spirit power ball. He took the spirit power ball out of the spirit pearl's space and circulated the 5-spirit immortal transformation art to extract the special spirit power from the dust return flame to condense an earth attribute spirit power seed. 5 days later, he repeatedly divided the dust return flame more than 10 times and finally condensed an earth yellow spirit power seed the size of a soybean. The dust return flame's grade was higher than the life spirit fire. It had just been condensed and was already stronger than the wood attribute spirit power seed that had been nurtured for several years. He spent another day refining all the earth attribute spiritual energy in his body for the second time. He then took out a withered branch of the red-scaled pine from the spirit pearl's space and threw it on the ground. He then used the Tier 1 quicksand spell to envelop the withered branch. The quicksand spell created a field of quicksand on the ground to trap the enemy. It was a pure trapping spell with no lethality and a slow casting speed. It wasn't very useful against agile opponents. However, using the second refined earth attribute spirit power to cast the quicksand spell had a different effect. After 40 breaths of time, only a little bit of ash was left of the dead branch that was trapped in the quicksand technique. Although the time it took for the earth elemental spiritual power to corrode and decompose the soil was more than 4 times that of the dust returning flame, it was already very impressive. If he used this move to deal with opponents who were known for their strong physical bodies and slow speed, he would be able to severely injure them with just this quicksand technique. Of course, it depended on the strength of the opponent. If the opponent's spiritual power was stronger than his own, or if they had a powerful spell, they could forcibly break the quicksand technique. He then tried the sand flying spell, which was also a level 1 spell. Using earth attribute spiritual energy, he created a cloud of dust that flew towards the enemy. It had almost no destructive power and could only be used to deceive the enemy's vision and divine sense, taking advantage of the opportunity to escape. However, his sand flying technique enveloped a few dead trees. After about 60 to 70 breaths, the dead trees all turned into ashes. Wang Daoyuan proudly said, "Who said that earth element spells have low attack power? This destructive power is even more frightening than fire element spells." Yao Beast's resistance to the returning dust flame was even weaker than spirit plants. He also wanted to use spirit beasts to test the destructive power of earth element spells. Suddenly, he felt a strange movement from the 5 elements heaven suppressing seal. After communicating with the 5 elements heaven suppressing seal with his divine sense, he found that someone had touched the outermost array. Wang Daoyuan walked behind the 5-colored rock. The array restriction on the rock made it impossible for people outside to use their divine sense to probe inside, but the people inside could use their divine sense to probe outside. He used his divine sense to probe outside and found that the patriarch had come with 6 clansmen. He immediately activated the array and moved the 5-colored rock, revealing the door and welcoming them in. Among the 6 clansmen, 5 of them were of the patriarch's generation. These 5 granduncles were ranked at the bottom, but even so they were all about 100 years old. Their cultivation talent was not good and they did not have any skills. They were usually arranged in the various mortal settlements of the clan and were responsible for managing mortal affairs. Among the patriarch's generation, only the patriarch and 9th granduncle were still in charge. Moreover, 9th granduncle was already more than 110 years old and was only a few years away from the end of his life. That generation had already withered away and now it was the era of the Shou and Dao generations. Among the 6 clansmen who came with the patriarch, there was an elder that he was both familiar and unfamiliar with. This person was 6th uncle Wang Shoufeng. When he returned to Jade Spring Peak alone after the battle in Guyan Valley, 6th uncle Wang Shoufeng colluded with 2 elders to seize the opportunity to seize power. Fortunately, Taigong stood up and temporarily took over the patriarch's position. Wang Shoufeng was confined, and the other 2 elders of the Ji generation who colluded with him were also marginalized and began to retire in advance. More than 20 years had passed and those 2 granduncles had already passed away. After not seeing them for so many years, he almost forgot about this 6th uncle. The 6 clansmen followed behind the patriarch and entered the door. They all bowed to Wang Daoyuan to show their respect for the clan's elders. He greeted them as granduncle and 6th uncle, and returned their greetings. Leading the patriarch and the elders into the secret realm, The 5 granduncles' beards and hair were all white, but when they saw the scene in the secret realm, they were as happy as children. They grew up during the clan's most difficult days. Although they didn't contribute much to the clan, they worked conscientiously for more than 80 years. Even if they didn't contribute much, they still worked hard. Now that the clan had a stable backup plan, they were naturally happy from the bottom of their hearts. The fact that the patriarch brought them here meant that they were absolutely trustworthy. However, he didn't understand why the patriarch brought 6th uncle here. Wang Shoufeng looked at the 5 elements' secret realm and trembled with excitement. 2 lines of hot tears flowed out of his eyes. He turned to Wang Daoyuan and was about to kneel down. Frightened, Wang Daoyuan immediately supported him. Cultivation clans valued seniority the most. No matter what mistakes he made, even if he was killed as a junior, he couldn't accept the elders' respect. Wang Daoyuan said, 6th uncle, if you have something to say, we can talk about it. Please don't be like this. Wang Shoufeng cried and said, I've let you down, let the clan down, and let you call me 6th uncle. Back then, when the clan was in danger, I only wanted to fight for power. After you came back, I even wanted to get rid of you. Fortunately, the Grand Elder took charge of the situation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the face to see my ancestors. All these years, I've quietly reflected on my mistakes. I know that compared to you and 12th brother, I'm too far behind. Back then, before 12th brother entered the clan, the elders did their best to train me, but I wanted to kill the clan's hope. I've let them down. Wang Daoyuan saw that he was sincerely remorseful and comforted him. Everyone makes mistakes. It's great that you can change your mistakes. Let bygones be bygones. Besides, you didn't cause any serious consequences, did you? Since the patriarch brought you here, it means that you're trustworthy. The patriarch's will is the entire clan's will. The clan has forgiven you. The patriarch also comforted him. Shoufeng, don't take the past to heart. I completely trust you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have restored your elder status. Wang Shoufeng wiped his tears and said, I just want to do something for the clan before I die. After I die, I'll have the face to enter the ancestral grave and receive the incense of my descendants. Although 6th uncle had made mistakes, his personal ability wasn't weak. After all, he had been trained as the successor for decades. His management ability was excellent. There was nothing to worry about leaving the 5 elements secret realm to him. He just reminded them not to touch the altar and disturb the 5 elements spiritual master's rest. Chapter 154. Wang Daoyuan and the clan leader went to the door behind the 5-colored rock and started to set up the formation. This formation was made up of several formation plates. Once the plates were buried underground, the formation would be activated as long as they were supplied with spiritual energy. There was no need to worry about spiritual energy. 5 elements Taoist had connected this place to the spirit veins in the secret realm. They only needed to bury the formation plates in the right place to connect to the spirit veins. After burying the formation plates, the clan leader took out a token. After activating it, the formation was activated immediately. After activating it again, the formation was closed. Afterwards, he gave the token to Wang Daoyuan and said, This is the token used to activate the formation. Don't lose it. This formation is a 3rd-grade formation left behind by the ancestor. There aren't many tokens left. Only Foundation Establishment cultivators can use this token. Don't give it to anyone else. There are still matters to take care of in the clan. I'll go back first. Wang Daoyuan felt it was a bit strange. There were Taigong 9th great uncle and 12th uncle in the clan. What matter did the clan leader have to take care of personally? Thus he asked, What happened? Did the Liang clan do something again? The clan leader smiled and said, I really can't hide it from you. The Liang clan came up with another idea. They urged the Netherworld sect to attack the Red-Beard bandits. They haven't reached a consensus yet and it's not a big deal. They didn't plan to let you participate. Wang Daoyuan thought for a while and said, I'll also return to Jade Spring Peak. I'll leave this place to 6th uncle and 5th great uncle. There's nothing to worry about. After giving some instructions to the 6 people who stayed behind, the 2 of them left the 5 elements secret realm and opened the portal formation. As soon as Wang Daoyuan stepped out of the portal, the golden wings descended from the sky and landed on his shoulder. He put the golden wings back into the space in the spiritual pearl and released the soul-chasing bees to scout the way. The 2 of them quickly returned to the clan. When they returned to Jade Spring Peak, They saw an old cultivator wearing a green robe chatting with Taigong under the ancient pine tree. This person's robe was embroidered with a poplar tree. He was a cultivator of the Yang clan. To be able to make Taigong come out personally, this person was definitely a foundation establishment cultivator. Moreover, his seniority was not low. The clan leader stepped forward and bowed to the foundation establishment cultivator of the Yang clan. "Greetings, senior." Wang Daoyuan naturally followed suit and bowed, calling him senior. The Yang family ancestor had always considered himself to be the junior of the Wang family ancestor and was one generation higher than Taigong. For the patriarch to call this person senior meant that he was of the same generation as Taigong. This person was the son of the Yang family's old ancestor. The Yang clan's foundation establishment cultivator smiled and said, "The two of you are also in the foundation establishment realm. You can address each other as equals." The patriarch repeatedly said that he did not dare. The Yang family senior looked at Wang Daoyuan and asked, "This little friend looks quite young. You should be from the Dao generation, right?" Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, replying to senior, "This junior's name is Wang Daoyuan." He thought for a moment and asked, "I remember that more than 20 years ago my father said that there was a junior in the Wang family called Wang Daoyuan who was not a fish in a pond. He was probably talking about you." Sure enough, he was not simple. He had built his foundation at such a young age. "If I remember correctly, you are still of my Yang family bloodline?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Yes. According to the secular world's hierarchy, I am the 8th generation descendant of old ancestor Yang." The Yang clan's foundation establishment cultivator smiled and said, "Good. The two families have intermarried for generations, and now there is finally a foundation establishment junior with the bloodline of both families. In the future, if the Yang family is in trouble, I hope that you can help the Yang family for the sake of your bloodline." Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. What did he mean? These words were not said casually. Could it be that the Yang family was in trouble and had something to ask of the Wang family? Otherwise, there was no need to pull strings in the first place. The last sentence, which said that he would take care of the Yang family in the future, implied that he needed the Wang family's help now. The Yang family's old ancestor was still alive. If the Yang family could not solve the problem, how could the Wang family help? He was at a loss. There was something he did not know about, so he did not know how to answer. As a foundation establishment cultivator, his words and actions could represent the family. His answer was equivalent to the Wang family's attitude. Perhaps seeing his dilemma, Taigong smiled and said, "Little brother, what are you saying? The two families are one and there is no distinction between each other. The Yang family's matters are my Wang family's matters." The Yang family's foundation establishment stood up and said, "With elder brother's words, I am relieved. There are still matters to attend to in the family, so I will return first." Wang Daoyuan and the family head sent him down the mountain together. When the two returned, Wang Daoyuan asked, "Taigong, what does this senior Yang mean? The Yang family has something to ask of our Wang family?" Wang Jizi sighed and said, Liang, that old man has figured out the Yang family's bloodline." A few years ago, the Liang family's properties were attacked by the Red-Beard bandits, and the family members suffered heavy losses. In these few years, the Red-Beard bandits secretly attacked the Liang family several times, and the Liang family lost many family members. In order to completely eliminate the threat of the Red-Beard bandits, Liang wanted the underworld sect to take the lead and recruit all the families to eliminate the Red-Beard bandits. The underworld sect was also divided on this matter internally. The Red-Beard bandits only attacked the Liang family, and the underworld sect itself did not suffer any losses. The west side was also fighting fiercely with the cruel Sun Palace, so the upper echelons did not want to care about this matter. Liang used many connections before the upper echelons relented, saying that whether to attack or not depended on the opinions of the nearby families. The Liang family threw out some benefits and made the surrounding families agree to attack the Red-Beard bandits. The benefit given to our Wang family was a Tier 2 cinnabar mine on the north bank of Clear Stream, not too far from Mirror Iron Mountain. The benefit given to the Meng family was a small mine with a spirit vein in the northwest of Clear Glass Market. The benefit given to the Yang family was 3 mines on the south bank of Clear Stream. Our Wang family and Meng family do not need these at all, but the Yang family is crazy about the waterway port. This is the best chance to take down the port of Clear Stream. Therefore, the Yang family's intention is to agree to suppress the Red-Beard bandits and eat this benefit. Isn't this person here to persuade our Wang family? Wang Daoyuan sucked in a cold breath and said, the Liang family also has capable people. This is an overt scheme, taking advantage of the fact that the Yang family is unwilling to give up the port of Clear Stream. They also know that our Wang family and Meng family do not dare to fall out with the Yang family. Moreover, this back and forth, the Liang family did not suffer a single loss, and even dragged our 3 families into the water. The clan leader asked, the Liang family paid such a high price, how can you say that they did not suffer a single loss? Wang Daoyuan answered, the Liang family was bullied by the Red-Beard bandits. They should have lost about a third of their cultivators and won't be able to recover for several decades. Although the current Liang family is barely able to defend all of their properties, the Red-Beard bandits will not give up so easily. If the Liang family wants to protect themselves, they must give up some of their properties and hole up near the core area. If I remember correctly, the properties that the Liang family gave up were all more than 300 kilometers away from Clear Sky Peak. Within 300 kilometers, the Liang family's late-stage foundation establishment cultivators would be able to provide support in about 15 minutes if they rushed with all their might. If they were any further, they would not be able to provide support in a short period of time. If they were ambushed by the Red-Beard bandits, it is very likely that they would lose their clansmen. The Liang family could not defend those properties and could only sell them. Even if our 3 families did not agree, the Liang family would still have to give up those properties. They gave away some things that they could not hold on to in the first place. At most they would have to pay a few spirit stones. Can spirit stones be considered a price? Grand Duke and the clan leader both nodded in agreement. Grand Duke shook his head helplessly and said, the Yang family has been blinded by profit, wanting to swallow the meat as soon as they see it. They did not think about why the Liang family sent the meat into their own mouths. Sigh, it's no wonder that the Yang family does not have a port and transportation is laborious. But why can't they wait a little longer? The Yang family has so many people, they can't all be short-sighted people, right? Wang Daoyuan pondered for a while and said, I was wondering what was wrong. So the Liang family still had a scheme. We agreed to fight the Red-Beard bandits, so we had to send people and we were dragged into the water by the Liang family. If the Red-Beard bandits were destroyed, the Liang family would benefit the most and they would not have to take a beating. What if they could not be destroyed? Chapter 155. Patriarch Wang Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. If we can't exterminate them, our families will have offended the Red-Beard pirates. The ones being beaten changed from the Liang family to all the families around Clear Glass City. Our Wang family and Meng family were the first to bear the brunt. After all, our territories are the closest to Mount Huiyan. The Liang clan's move was indeed powerful. Regardless of success or failure, the Liang clan would benefit greatly. If our Wang clan and Meng clan succeed, we will gain the least advantage. If we fail, we will suffer the greatest loss. The key point is that the Yang family is already enraged. Our Wang family can't offend the Yang family for this matter. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, although it's troublesome, it's not a matter of life and death. When the time comes, we'll just do our part. It's just that our Wang clan doesn't have enough manpower. Even if we do send someone to attack the Red-Beard bandits, we'll have to insist that we only send foundation establishment cultivators and not chi refinement cultivators. Once a chi refinement cultivator entered the depths of Mount Huiyan, there would definitely be losses. The Red-Beard bandits retaliated by targeting the Liang clan and the other clans who were fighting fiercely. As long as our foundation establishment cultivators don't stand out, there's a good chance that they'll be fine. We have to make the Liang family hand over their assets first before we agree. With the property in their hands, the benefits of the Yang family would have already been swallowed into their stomachs. Even if we don't put in any effort, the Yang family has nothing to say. After all, we've already given the Yang family enough face by agreeing to this matter. Hearing this, Tai Gong and the patriarch let out a sigh of relief. The patriarch said, we can also use the Liang family as an example. Once the other families lose members, the Liang family will have to pay compensation. If the Meng family agreed, it should be Meng Qingshan who did it. He did not have many years left to live. This time it was very likely that he would not be able to return alive. Letting the Liang family take out the pension could also slightly weaken the Liang family's strength and replenish the Meng family's finances. However, if we can't exterminate the Red-Beard bandits, then our Wang clan's territories in the north and west will no longer be peaceful. Wang Daoyuan was very confident. He smiled and said, I'm not afraid of that. Our Wang clan can just add a few more foundation establishment cultivators. The clan leader shook his head and smiled wryly. Who doesn't want to have a few more foundation building cultivators in the clan? But where can we find foundation building pills? Wang Daoyuan took out 5 Tier 2 jade boxes and opened one of them. Inside was a blood-red pill the size of a longan. Both Tai Gong and the patriarch widened their eyes. They quickly opened the other jade boxes and saw that they were all building foundation dawn. The clan leader was so excited that he gasped for breath. Where did you get so many foundation establishment pills? Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, these were all left behind by master. Pills that had just been concocted all had a fiery aura, which could be seen at a glance. Therefore he didn't take it out earlier. But now these building foundation pills had been stored in the space of the spirit bead for about 2 years, so there was no longer any heat in them. It was impossible to tell how long it had been since they had been refined. The patriarch sighed and said, Senior 5 Elements Taoist, your kindness to our Wang clan is truly too great. I won't stand on ceremony with you. In any case, I'll leave the entire family to you in the future. After saying that, he hurriedly closed all 5 jade boxes to prevent them from losing their medicinal properties. Wang Daoyuan said, these building foundation establishment pills can be used by 8th uncle and 9th aunt first. They're almost 70 years old. As for the rest, we can let suitable clansmen build their foundations in the secret territory and temporarily guard it there. Outsiders won't know that our Wang clan has so many people building their foundations. In a few years, the Netherworld sect will be auctioning building foundation establishment pills again. Our clan can buy 1 or 2 more to explain why our clansmen have built their foundations. Tai Gong stroked his beard and laughed. Daoyuan is still the most considerate. Even in my dreams, I never thought that our clan would be able to prosper so quickly. It's all thanks to Daoyuan. Right at this moment, the patriarch received a message from Elder Zhou. The Netherworld sect had asked for the opinions of the various clans about the punitive expedition against the Red-Beard bandits, asking them to send people to Qingli Market to discuss this matter. The patriarch made some preparations and was about to leave when Wang Daoyuan hurriedly said, I'll go with them. I just happen to need to go to the north of the mountain to look for something. This time I can go explore the path. The patriarch didn't have any objections, and the 2 of them were about to leave Yuchuan Peak. Wang Shi suddenly rushed out, also wanting to go. Ever since he built his foundation, he had been busy dealing with the clan's affairs all day long, so he basically didn't have time to go out for a stroll. He was almost bored to death. Now that he saw a chance to go out, how could he give it up? He said eagerly, I'll go with them too. After I built my foundation, I haven't fought much. Give me a chance. How about Daoyuan, don't go and give this chance to me? Wang Daoyuan patted his shoulder and said with a smile, 12th uncle, not letting you go is for your own good. What if you run into danger? Wang Shi naturally wasn't convinced. Your cultivation level is lower than mine. I'm at least in the 3rd layer of the foundation establishment realm, and you're only in the 1st layer. How can you compare with me? Wang Daoyuan took out the shocking wind sword. Can you fly as fast as me? Water attribute cultivators didn't have any praiseworthy points in terms of speed, so they naturally couldn't compare with Wang Daoyuan. Without waiting for him to refute, Wang Daoyuan took out 2 middle-grade 2nd-rank talismans. Can you attack as hard as me? Wang Shi wasn't convinced. He also took out 2 middle-grade 2nd-rank talismans. I have them too. Wang Daoyuan looked at him disdainfully and took out a stack of middle-grade 2nd-rank talismans. There were about 50 to 60 of them. Wang Shi was discouraged. He hung his head dejectedly. Wang Daoyuan took out 5 jars of 20-year-old scarlet blood wine and handed them to him. His expression immediately vanished. He snatched the scarlet blood wine and happily returned to his Immortal's cave. The 2 of them left Jade Spring Peak on their flying swords, heading straight for Clear Glass Market. 4 hours later, they arrived at the Netherworld sect's headquarters in Clear Glass Market. The other clans in the vicinity had pretty much all arrived. 2 foundation establishment cultivators came out and led everyone to a large hall to take a seat. Not long after, Zhou Qi and Yang Yong, 2 Zifu sect elders, entered the hall and sat in the main seats. Zhou Xian said. This time, everyone was invited by the Liang clan. They want to exterminate the Scarlet Beard Bandits. The Scarlet Beard Bandits brazenly attacked our Netherworld sect's subordinate clans. The sect master and several core formation ancestors were furious and agreed to the Liang clan's request. However, the Scarlet Beard Bandits are so few in number. It's not worth the sect making such a big fuss. Therefore, the clans in the vicinity of Clear Glass Market gathered people. The Netherworld sect also sent out 10 Foundation establishment cultivators to exterminate the Scarlet Beard Bandits. Of course, the Netherworld sect didn't forcibly recruit the clans. Whether or not to fight is up to everyone. I'm about to leave Clear Glass Market and return to the sect. In the future, this Clear Glass Market will be overseen by Elder Yang. This meeting will be presided over by Elder Yang. I'll take my leave now. Everyone stood up and said, "Congratulations on your promotion, Elder Zhou." After Zhou Qian left, everyone once again cupped their hands towards Yang Yong and said, "Congratulations, Elder Yang." Wang Daoyuan finally understood why the Yang clan was so proactive. Was a dignified Zifu sect cultivator really bewitched by a few dogs? So there was an exchange of benefits involved. Most likely, Zhou Qian had some other great use for Clear Glass Market and the Liang clan ancestor had made some kind of promise. Overseeing Clear Glass Market was a lucrative job. Moreover, it was very powerful. Overseeing 10 to 20 Netherworld sect Foundation establishment cultivators was enough to command half of the clans in Clear Glass County. These benefits were far from what a few mines and docks could compare to. Chapter 156. The Liang clan was really willing to bleed this time. In order to pull the other clans down, they didn't hesitate to help the Yang clan. In this way, the Liang clan could only be below the Yang clan. They would never be able to compete with the Yang clan in the future. The Netherworld sect's local faction wanted to balance the other two factions. Now, it was the external faction that was crushing the family faction. The local faction naturally had to suppress the external faction and support the family faction. As a member of the external faction, the Liang clan's ancestor couldn't take over Zhou Qi's position. But the external faction could fan the wind behind and light the ghost fire, making Yang Yong unable to take over. Yang Yong guarded Clear Glass City. He could be considered an elder with real power in the Netherworld sect. There weren't many people from the family faction. There weren't many Purple Mansion elders. He became an elder with real power and could be said to be the leader of the family faction. With his identity as the leader of the family faction, he could obtain the support of many old clans. This had great significance to the Yang clan's future development. It wasn't impossible for them to become the #1 clan in Clear Glass City. With such great benefits, anyone would be envious. What was the point of fighting with the Red Beard Bandits and dragging the Wang and Meng clans down? Zhou Qian left the venue. The rest were the interested parties. Everyone sat down. Yang Yong was the first to speak. Elder Zhou said just now that the Netherworld sect didn't recruit everyone. Whether or not to fight the Red Beard Bandits is up to the clan heads. As an elder of the Netherworld sect, it's not convenient for me to speak. The clan heads can discuss among themselves. The Liang clan was the initiator. Naturally, they couldn't be a coward. The Liang clan head stood up and said, "The Red Beard Bandits are audacious. They dare to openly enter Clear Glass City and attack the businesses of the Netherworld sect's subordinate clans. If we don't punish them severely, it will only make them more arrogant. They might even dare to attack Clear Glass City." The cultivators of the various clans stared at Liang Jiaxing like they were watching a monkey show. He wanted to drag everyone down with him and still spoke like a human. No one answered. They just looked at Liang Jiaxing with a smile that wasn't a smile. Liang Jiaxing was a bit embarrassed. He glanced at the Huang clan head Huang Wanzhong. The Huang clan was in the southwest of Clear Glass City. They were also under the jurisdiction of the Clear Glass City's elder. When Huang Wanzhong was auctioning off the Foundation establishment pill, he wantonly raised the price and was cheated by Wang Xian. He had to borrow spirit stones from the Liang clan to barely survive. Now the Huang family had completely become the Liang family's dog. Since its owner was being treated like a monkey, the dog naturally had to bark a few times. Huang Wanzhong immediately agreed. Patriarch Liang's words are reasonable. If we let the Red Beard Bandits go, they will become even more lawless. The effect of these words was very obvious. Now the two of them were the ones being watched as monkeys. The atmosphere turned cold. Yang Yong coughed lightly and said, "Everyone, please make your stance clear. We can't let this stalemate continue." Since Elder Yang had spoken, even if he didn't give face to the monk, he still had to express his stance. The Wang and Meng clans had always been close to the Yang clan. At this time they had to speak up. The Wang clan's situation was getting better and better, and this matter wasn't beneficial to the Wang clan at all. Even if they didn't say anything, it wouldn't be a problem if the Yang clan were to be displeased. The Meng family was still running a miserable business. They relied on the Yang family for protection and could only be the vanguard. The Meng clan's grand elder Meng Qingshan smiled and said, "This is for everyone's own good. With the Red-Beard bandits running rampant, everyone will have a hard time." After the Meng clan expressed their stance, several clans close to the Yang clan also expressed their stance one after another. It wouldn't be good for the Wang clan to continue remaining silent. Wang Xian swept a glance at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan immediately understood. They had already discussed at Jade's Spring Peak that they would make the Liang family bleed first. The patriarch was a leading figure. It would be a bit shameful if he were to haggle. Wang Daoyuan was only in his 40s. Among foundation-building cultivators he was a genuine youngster. None of the others present were under 100 years old. It was just right for him to speak on behalf of the patriarch. If he spoke well, he would be called young and promising. If he spoke poorly, the patriarch would reprimand him for being young and ignorant. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Seniors in Liangdao, you are right. The Red-Beard bandits must be fought. However, before the troops and horses are mobilized, the provisions must be mobilized first. We can't fight the Red-Beard bandits on an empty stomach." These words were also laced with sarcasm. He referred to the others present as seniors and Liang Jiaxing as Daoyu. This was forcefully dragging Liang Jiaxing down by a generation. Wang Daoyuan said the question that everyone wanted to ask the most. Everyone wanted to swallow the benefits first. Later on, if they didn't put in any effort, they wouldn't be afraid that the Liang family wouldn't give them benefits. Everyone was waiting. If the Liang family didn't give them the benefits, everyone would play dumb. After all, it wasn't their own family that was being beaten. They wouldn't be in a hurry to fight again after 8 or 10 years. Liang Jiaxing said helplessly, "The promise from before will be fulfilled before we depart." Everyone's face lit up. Wang Daoyuan continued to ask, "Since the Netherworld sect didn't enlist us to attack the Red-Beard bandits this time, who will pay the compensation if there are casualties?" Everyone didn't expect this to happen. Their interest was piqued as they looked at Liang Jiaxing. Liang Jiaxing gritted his teeth as he looked at Wang Daoyuan. He said, "The attack on the Red-Beard bandits this time requires us to cross the Wild Goose Mountain. We can't bring Qi refinement cultivators. If there are casualties in the battle, the Liang family will pay the compensation. The injured will be compensated with 1,000 to 3,000 spirit stones, and the dead will be compensated with 10,000 spirit stones." Now everyone had no objections. Next, they discussed the issue of the number of people. In the end, it was decided that each family would send at least one foundation establishment cultivator. Families with more than one foundation establishment cultivator would send at least half of them. The Wang family had already expected this. They had already decided that Wang Daoyuan and the clan leader would participate in the battle. The Meng family would send a foundation establishment cultivator. Naturally, Meng Qingshan would go. It would be best if he returned alive. Even if he died in battle, he could still receive 10,000 spirit stones from the Liang family. After that, Liang Jiaxing and Yang Yong took out the information on the Red-Beard bandits. In order to take down the Red-Beard bandits, the Netherworld sect had planted spies in several of their properties and among the Red-Beard bandits. The Red-Beard bandits also knew the principle of, "A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows." They had divided many nests, but the Netherworld sect had never been able to grasp the location of all the nests. 7 years ago, the Red-Beard bandits had taken out the elites from all the nests. The commotion was too great, and the Netherworld sect spies had grasped the locations of many of the Red-Beard bandits' nests. The front line was tense and they lacked manpower. The Netherworld sect also wanted to keep the peace, so they did not plan to take action. The Liang family had been jumping up and down wanting to take action and bear the price. The Netherworld sect also did them a favor and handed over the information. The Red-Beard bandits had a total of 6 foundation establishment cultivators. The The first master and second master, who were the red-haired brothers, were both peak foundation establishment cultivators. In addition, there were 2 late-stage foundation establishment cultivators, 1 mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator, and 1 early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. The 6 of them usually guarded different nests. After the families had finished discussing the action plan, there was no need for Yang Yong to continue being present. He found an excuse and left the meeting place. Yang Yong left, but the others did not. They were all waiting to discuss with the Liang family about taking over the properties. In the end, the Liang family and the other families completed the handover of the properties within 3 days. 3 days later, they officially set off. After the meeting was adjourned, the patriarch returned to the mountain to arrange the handover of the Grade 2 cinnabar ore. Wang Daoyuan was at the clear glass market waiting to depart. He also went to the Divine Weapon Pavilion and bought a low-grade Grade 2 magic longsword, flat wave sword. This time he went out to work but did not put in any effort. Wielding the shocking wind sword was too conspicuous, and it would also expose the fact that he cultivated a multi-attribute cultivation technique. This flat wave sword was made by Zhao Liang. Zhao Liang was already a low-grade Grade 2 weapon forger, but he had not yet reached foundation establishment. 3 days later, the patriarch finished arranging the handover of the cinnabar ore and also hurried to the clear glass market. The foundation establishment cultivators of the various families all arrived one after another. The clear glass market needed a Zifu disciple to oversee it. Otherwise, the people of Green Willow Province would find an opportunity to destroy the market. Yang Yong could not leave, so the leader of this operation became the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Ziyuan. Under Yang Ziyuan's lead, the 30 or so foundation establishment cultivators left the clear glass market on their swords and headed towards the northwest. Chapter 157. According to the information obtained by the Underworld sect, the Red-Beard Bandits' largest lair was located in a small valley 2,000 kilometers northwest of Gold Goose City. The valley was shaped like a gourd. It was wide at both ends and narrow in the middle, hence its name. The Gourd Valley was 2,000 kilometers away from the southern foot of Mount Huiyan and 700 to 800 kilometers away from the northern foot of Mount Huiyan. The Red-Beard Bandits usually pillaged the northern foot of the mountain. The 30 or so cultivators that exterminated the Red-Beard Bandits had to travel 8,000 kilometers from Clear Glass Market to reach the Gourd Valley. Although there were many Red-Beard Bandits' lairs, they weren't interested in attacking them one by one. Instead, they went straight for the Gourd Valley. The core members of the Red-Beard Bandits were the first master and second master. The 2 of them were in the Gourd Valley. According to the plan, the Liang clan and their close clans would send a total of 8 foundation establishment cultivators to attack the Gourd Valley. The other 20 or so foundation establishment cultivators would lie in ambush around the Gourd Valley. If they could attract the Red-Beard Bandits from the other lairs, they would eliminate them all. If the Red-Beard Bandits from the other lairs didn't come, they would go all out to kill the first and second masters. The 2 brothers were both at the peak of foundation establishment and possessed exceptional talent. Who knew when they'd open the Violet Palace? If the 2 madmen opened the Violet Palace, the entire northern border would never have peace. As long as the 2 core members of the Red-Beard Bandits were killed, the other 4 foundation establishment cultivators wouldn't be able to cause much trouble even if they used the name of the Red-Beard Bandits. The Gourd Valley was 8,000 kilometers away from Clear Glass Market. 4 foundation establishment cultivators, this wasn't considered far. Among the 30 or so foundation establishment cultivators, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation was the lowest. Furthermore, in order to conceal his strength, he used his spiritual sense to suppress the fluctuations of the other 4 elements. He behaved like an ordinary cultivator with the water element. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see anything unusual. The other foundation establishment cultivators took good care of him. In order to prevent him from falling behind, the entire group traveled at a speed of 500 kilometers per hour. Wang Daoyuan naturally wasn't in a hurry. Since the others were taking care of him, the slower they flew, the better. It would be best if the Red-Beard Bandits had enough time to retreat and hide again. The Liang clan had already paid the price. Even if they returned without success, the Liang clan, they wouldn't be able to get their properties back. 16 hours later, They were only 200 to 300 miles away from the gourd cave. Everyone was divided into 3 groups. The 8 Foundation establishment cultivators from the Liang clan and the clans close to them temporarily waited in place. The head of the Yang clan, Yang Ziyuan, led his clans, including the Wang clan and the Meng clan, and more than 10 cultivators to surround the gourd cave from the west. The 10 Foundation establishment cultivators of the Netherworld sect circled around from the east side of the gourd cave. After the cultivators from the east and west were in position, Liang Jiaxing led the 8 Foundation establishment cultivators into action. They flew directly above the gourd cave. At this time, the red-beard bandits in the gourd cave were not on guard at all. They were still eating, drinking, and playing in the valley. 8 Foundation establishment cultivators cast spells in the air, attacking the Qi refinement red-bearded bandits in the valley. These ordinary red-beard bandits usually followed their leader to plunder houses or fight battles that went smoothly. How could they possibly contend against a foundation-building cultivator? A few large-scale destructive spells were thrown at them, and the group of people were like headless flies, fleeing in all directions. Not long after, a defensive light barrier lit up in the valley. This defensive light barrier was not weak. Liang Jiaxing, a late Foundation establishment cultivator, cast a rank 2 spell, but the light barrier only flickered slightly. The strength of this defensive light barrier was definitely not something a rank 2 spell formation could have. It seemed that the red-beard bandits had put in a lot of effort to set up a rank 3 defensive spell formation here. Liang Jiaxing saw that he could not break the spell formation in a short period of time and shouted, "They say that the red-beard bandits are unstoppable in the north and south of Huiyan Mountain. Today it seems that this is all there is to it. In the past, you red-beard bandits relied on your numbers to ambush my Liang clan's property. My Liang clan cultivators still dared to come out and fight. Today I've come to take revenge, but you don't even dare to show your heads in your lair." Huang Wanzhong also mocked, "Red-beard brat, do you only know how to be a coward?" The red-beard bandits could not take this provocation. After a few breaths, 2 burly men with red beards and red hair flew out of the valley on their swords. The one in the lead said angrily, "You scoundrels of the Liang clan only know how to bully with numbers. Last time, you relied on the Underworld sect and a few other clans' Foundation establishment cultivators to besiege us brothers, but you still couldn't do anything to us. Today you scoundrels want to take down the Gourd Valley with just you?" The 8 people led by the Liang clan saw the Redbeard brothers come out and did not waste words. They directly threw a few spells at them. The Redbeard brothers' cultivation was higher than the 8 people of the Liang clan. Their reactions were also faster and they dodged the attacks with their swords. Afterwards, they each condensed a ball of fire the size of a millstone and threw it at the 8 people. These fireballs were not ordinary flames. Although they could not be counted as spiritual fire, they were still extraordinary. The 8 people did not dare to take them head-on and could only dodge the fireballs. The 8 people of the Liang clan did not have enough cultivation and did not have the heart to fight to the death. 8 against 2, they were actually evenly matched. The Wang clan and the others were hiding more than 20 miles away from the cliffs on both sides of the Gourd Valley. At this distance, a Foundation establishment cultivator's spiritual sense would not be able to detect them. As long as there was something to hide them, they would not be discovered. The Redbeard brothers seemed to have cultivated a type of joint attack spell. When the 2 of them worked together, their power was multiplied by several times. The 8 people did not dare to face them directly. They could only rely on each other to restrain them and barely contend with them. The 2 groups were unable to determine a winner and the battle continued for 8 hours. At this moment, the Yang clan leader transmitted a voice message to the people lying in ambush. "Someone is coming from behind. Hide in the earth." These Foundation establishment cultivators were all experienced. Those who did not know the Earth Escape spell had Earth Escape talismans on them. Once they heard that they were hiding in the earth, they quickly escaped more than 30 meters deep. At this depth, a normal Foundation establishment cultivator's spiritual sense would not be able to detect them. After a few minutes, 4 Foundation establishment cultivators flew over them on their swords. In half a cup of tea's time, more than 300 Qi refinement Redbeard bandits entered the Gourd Valley from the small paths on the north and south sides. Wang Daoyuan could not believe it. The infamous Redbeard bandits who had rampaged in the Huiyan mountain area for more than 100 years, were surrounded just like that? They were surrounded in an instant. The goal this time was to kill the Foundation establishment Redbeard bandits. The group did not pay attention to these chi refinement cultivators. Now that they were here, they could kill them all in one fell swoop. Above the Gourd Valley, 4 Foundation establishment cultivators joined the battle. The situation became 6 against 8. The 8 people of the Liang clan immediately became strained. Liang Jiaxing shouted, "Everyone, Daoyu, it's time to make a move." Yang Ziyuan took the lead and rushed out with 2 Foundation establishment cultivators of the Yang clan. Wang Daoyuan wanted to continue watching the show, but since the Yang clan had made a move, he could only follow. The Underworld Sect's Foundation establishment cultivators lying in ambush on the east side of the Gourd Valley also jumped out immediately. More than 20 people flew into the sky on their swords and surrounded the 6 Redbeard bandits. The 6 Redbeard bandits did not linger and directly flew down on their swords. They did not leave the defensive light barrier. Now that they suddenly fled, no one could stop them in time. They successfully fell into the formation's light barrier. After the 6 of them landed, the Great Master laughed arrogantly. "If not for the fact that I was worried that you would not be able to take down the Gourd Valley and cause trouble for the other brothers, I wouldn't have bothered with you. I didn't think that you scoundrels would still be so immature. You let my brothers enter the Gourd Valley just like that. In this Gourd Valley, not to mention you Foundation establishment cultivators, even if that old man Liang came personally, what could he do to me?" So these 2 brothers had wasted so much time here just to put on an act. They had more than 30 Foundation establishment cultivators on their side, and they really thought that these 2 brothers were boorish men. In the end, they had all been played. Sure enough, those who could survive in the Immortal cultivation world were not fools. If they wanted to kill the Redbeard bandits now, they would have to first take down this Tier 3 defensive formation. Chapter 158. The Liang clan's plan to defeat the Redbeard bandits and trap the other clans wasn't something that could be thought of in a day or two. It must have been carefully planned. It was normal for the Redbeard bandits' lair to have a formation, so the Liang clan naturally made preparations. Although the Liang clan didn't have a formation master, the Liang clan's ancestor had specially transferred a 3rd-level formation master from the Netherworld sect to participate in this attack. An 8th-level Foundation establishment cultivator walked out from the Netherworld sect's 10 Foundation establishment cultivators. Liang Jiaxing cupped his hands towards him. "Wu Daoyu, I'll have to trouble you with this formation." The cultivator surnamed Wu smiled. "I wouldn't dare. I've come on Elder Liang's orders to help, so I'll naturally do my best." The cultivator surnamed Wu took out a bowl-sized black 8 trigrams disc. Under the stimulation of spiritual energy, the disc's surface flickered with light. Wang Daoyuan hadn't started studying formations yet, so he didn't understand what the light on the disc meant. However, he had pried into Qiyun's memories, so he had some general knowledge of formations. This 8 trigrams disc was called a formation measuring disc. Under the stimulation of spiritual energy, it could sense the position of the formation's eye and the flow of spiritual energy. Generally, formations use the eye of the formation to provide spiritual energy for the formation to function. Spiritual energy flowed in a certain path between the formation eyes. As long as one could break the formation's eye or block the path of spiritual energy, the formation could be broken. However, the person who set up the formation would do everything possible to hide the formation's eye, making it very difficult for the person who broke the formation to find it. At this time, one could only rely on the formation measuring disc. However, it was impossible to find the formation's eye in a defensive formation like this one. This was because the formation's eye was hidden inside the defensive light barrier, so it couldn't be broken even if it was found. The reason the cultivator surnamed Wu took out the formation measuring disc was because he wanted to measure the direction of spiritual energy flow and use it to deduce the weak points of the defensive light barrier. There was no perfect formation in the world, and every formation had its weak points. For example, the defensive formation in front of them was a 3rd-level formation. If one were to forcefully attack it, even a mid-Zifu disciple would have to fight for several days. If an early Zifu disciple didn't have any special methods, they wouldn't be able to break it. However, if one were to find the formation's weak point, even a Foundation establishment cultivator would be able to break the formation in a short period of time. At this time, there were over 30 Foundation establishment cultivators. Once they found a weak point in the formation, they would be able to break it open with the simultaneous attacks of over 30 people. The cultivator surnamed Wu took the formation testing disc and spent more than 4 hours circling the entire valley, but he still couldn't find any weak points. Unable to maintain his composure, he shouted, "This formation is quite clever. It hides the circulation of spiritual energy very well. I can't find a weak point right away. Do you please help me attack the defensive light barrier? When the formation is operating rapidly, it's easier to expose its weak points." When the red-beard bandits in the valley heard this, they laughed wantonly. The great master shouted, "Brothers, there's a formation master here who wants to break our formation. Let's cheer for them." After saying that, the several hundred red-beard pirates roared with laughter, and the sound of drums really resounded in the gourd valley. However, the sound of the drum was not very powerful and had no effect on Foundation establishment cultivators, so no one took it to heart. The people outside the formation controlled their flying swords to attack the defensive light shield. Wang Daoyuan infused spiritual energy into the flat wave sword. The sword gave off a blue glow floating in front of him. He pointed his finger and the flat wave sword quickly flew in the direction he pointed. Half a breath later, the flying sword hit the light shield. The defensive light shield did not give them any face, not even a ripple. Of course, for a Foundation establishment first-layer cultivator, not being able to cause any ripples was normal. The other cultivators' attacks were much stronger. Every time they attacked, they caused a ripple. More than 30 Foundation establishment cultivators, many a little makes an ocean. The defensive light shield was hit until it trembled. The cultivator surnamed Wu's face finally showed joy, saying, "Dao, you increase the power, don't stop. I already have some ideas. Give me another 4 hours, I'll definitely find a weak point." Everyone increased the output of spiritual energy, controlling their flying swords to attack the defensive light shield. The sword control technique was quite powerful, but it consumed the least amount of spiritual energy among all the Foundation establishment cultivators' attacks. Attacking with the sword control technique for 4 hours would consume a lot of spiritual energy, but everyone could handle it. Moreover, they could rest midway to recover their spiritual energy. Attacking for 4 hours wasn't a big problem. However, in order to hide his strength, Wang Daoyuan drank scarlet blood wine several times midway to recover his spiritual energy. 4 hours later, the cultivator surnamed Wu's face was full of joy, saying, "I've found a weak point in the defensive light shield. However, this weak point is constantly moving. I've already locked onto it with a formation measuring disc. All Dao, come over and follow the place I'm pointing. When I call for action, attack together. Don't miss the timing." Everyone flew to where he was on their flying swords, each finding a convenient place to attack. The cultivator surnamed Wu pointed at a spot on the light shield. 10 breaths later, he shouted, "Attack." More than 30 flying swords attacked a spot the size of a wash basin at the same time. The light shield did not even flicker before it shattered. The cultivators of the Liang family laughed wantonly, as if they had already seen the red-beard bandits being killed. As for the red-beard bandits in the valley, they did not panic in the slightest when they saw the formation being broken. A few Foundation establishment cultivators even looked up to the sky and laughed. The first master waved his hand, and the chi condensation cultivators hid in the caves on both sides of the valley. From beginning to end, the beating of drums in the valley had never stopped. Everyone outside the valley had a puzzled expression. Why was the red-beard bandits even happier than they were after the defensive formation was broken? Was there something wrong with their heads? Wang Daoyuan felt that something was amiss. He transmitted his voice to the clan head. The red-beard bandits should still have a backup plan. This formation was only used to stall for time. We might have already fallen into their trap. Once there's a change, just run. Don't worry about me. If the red-beard bandits make a move, they'll target the Liang family. They won't waste the effort to chase after me. In any case, I'm not recruited by the Netherworld sect. It won't matter even if I run. I have some talismans here. Take them. When you run, you might be able to use them." Finished speaking, he secretly passed a storage pouch to the clan head. The clan head accepted the storage pouch without batting an eyelid and put it into his clothes. At this moment, in the valley, the first and second masters of the red-beard bandits each took out a horn and blew it. The horn sound was extremely loud and ear-piercing. It seemed to have the effect of attacking one's soul, causing one's head to ache slightly. Although the Liang family cultivators did not dare to fly down directly, they would not just stand by and watch. Liang Jiaxing held a handful of seeds in his hand. He circulated his spirit energy and enveloped the seeds. After the seeds landed on the ground, they grew rapidly. Hundreds of vines spread throughout the valley, attacking anyone they saw. A Foundation establishment cultivator among the red-beard bandits snorted coldly. The Liang family claimed that they didn't ambush our brothers. Back then, the person who killed our brothers used this move. Even though they had to avoid the attacks of the vines, the red-beard bandits' horn sound did not stop. Not long after, Wang Daoyuan felt a slight tremor from the ground. He scanned the surroundings with his spiritual sense but did not discover anything wrong. After 20 breaths, the tremor became even more intense. There were even low roars of beasts and the cries of demonic birds in the sky. So, the red-beard bandits had been beating the drums and blowing the horns for so long to summon demonic beasts. He did not expect the red-beard bandits to have such an ability. The spies of the Netherworld sect were practically useless. They could not even find out the enemy's strongest move, and they had the cheek to call themselves spies. Initially, they thought that the red-beard bandits' backup was in the gourd cave and that they could escape directly. However, now that the demonic beasts were surrounding them from all sides, whoever ran first would be surrounded and attacked. Chapter 159. 50 breaths later, the beasts appeared outside the gourd valley and surrounded the 30 foundational cultivators. There were more than 100 second-rank demonic beasts on the ground and more than 50 second-rank demonic birds in the sky. However, there were not many rank 1 demonic beasts, only a few hundred of them. There were less than 200 rank 1 demon birds. These rank 1 demonic beasts were not of much use against Foundation establishment cultivators and were only here to make up the numbers. Being surrounded by so many demonic beasts, the Liang clan cultivator who was smiling brightly earlier instantly had a bitter expression on his face. Everyone looked at the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Xian. After all, he was the leader appointed by Elder Yang. Although Liang Jiaxing didn't put him in his eyes, the only cultivators he could command were the Liang family and the array master surnamed Wu. The dozen or so people led by the Yang clan and the 9 Foundation establishment cultivators of the Netherworld sect didn't listen to him at all. Seeing that everyone was waiting for him to make a decision, Yang Ziyuan had no choice but to speak up. He pondered for a moment and said, "There are many demonic beasts and birds. There were more than 100 demonic beasts on the ground. There was no hope for them to escape from the ground. There are only about 50 second-order demon birds. When we use the art of sword flight, the demon beasts on the ground can only use a few innate spells. They won't be of much use. So, let's ride on our swords and rush out of the encirclement of the demonic beasts and demonic birds. After we get out, we'll split up and break out. Does Dao Yu have any objections?" No one had any objections. This was the best way to break out of the encirclement. Escaping through the earth was out of the question. The closest place to the outside of the mountain was about 800 miles away. Foundation establishment cultivators couldn't possibly escape through the earth for such a long distance. Moreover, the speed of earth escape was too slow. The 2 leaders of the Red-Beard bandits were both peak stage Foundation establishment cultivators. Even Earth Escape could not escape the detection of their divine senses. He couldn't run fast and he couldn't hide. If he returned to the ground, he would be surrounded. This method wouldn't work at all. On the other hand, he only needed to face over 50 second-grade demon birds and 6 Foundation establishment red-bearded bandits if he wanted to escape from the sky. Compared to Earth Escape and charging on the ground, sword kinesis was the most reliable way to escape. Yang Xian shouted, "Attack!" And more than 30 people flew into the sky on their swords. Everyone's hands were not idle either. One after another, they cast spells to attack the rank 2 demon birds around them. Wang Daoyuan directly condensed a water dragon that was more than 200 feet long. Using 10,000 dragons emerging from the sea, he transformed it into 5 water dragons that were more than 4 feet long. A water dragon transformed into a water dragon armor to protect himself. The other 4 water dragons circled around the demonic birds that had come to stop them. The patriarch beside him also used the same method, but the water dragon he condensed was more than 300 feet long. In addition, the clan head cultivated the overturned sea art, which complemented the water dragon art. His prowess was much greater. These demonic birds were also circling around in the air. The 30 or so Foundation establishment cultivators were trying to break through the encirclement in one direction. There were only a dozen or so demonic birds that could stop them immediately. The demonic beasts on the ground could only use long-range innate spells. However, for Foundation establishment cultivators who used sword kinesis flight, it was not much of a threat. Faced with the sudden attack of more than 30 Foundation establishment cultivators, the dozen or so demon birds were completely defenseless. After a few breaths of time, more than 30 people rushed out and killed 4 or 5 demonic birds. Inside the Gourd Valley, the sound of horns and drums continued as the demonic beasts chased after them. Apart from the first and second masters of the Red Beard Bandits, the other 4 Foundation establishment cultivators chased after them as well. The 30 or so Foundation establishment cultivators broke through the encirclement in the southeast direction. After breaking through the encirclement, they gradually spread out. Wang Daoyuan followed the clan head and fled in the south direction. After separating from the other Foundation establishment cultivators, Wang Daoyuan no longer had to hide. He no longer suppressed his spirit energy fluctuations with his spirit consciousness. Putting away his smooth wave sword, he switched to his wind shock sword. In order not to be caught by the demonic birds, he used sword kinesis flight with all his might. His speed was much faster than usual and could reach approximately 1,700 to 1,800 kilometers per hour. However, his spirit energy consumption was huge as well. Before long, he would have to drink some scarlet blood brew to recover his spirit energy. The 30 or so people split up and escaped. The demonic birds and demonic beasts chased after them separately as well. At that moment, there were 2 Grade 2 demonic birds and 3 Grade 2 demonic beasts chasing after Wang Daoyuan and Wang Xian. It was impossible for a cultivator to fly faster than a demonic bird of the same grade. They could only rely on occasionally turning back to throw talismans or use spells to force the demonic birds to retreat. After the 2 of them flew over 150 kilometers, Wang Xian transmitted his voice, "Daoyuan, let's split up and run. There's a mid-grade Grade 2 demonic bird behind us and 2 mid-grade Grade 2 demonic beasts below us. Let's run together. It won't be long before the mid-grade Grade 2 demonic bird catches up to you. If we split up, the mid-grade Grade 2 demonic birds and demonic beasts will definitely chase after me. The ones chasing after you are definitely the 2 low-grade Grade 2 demonic beasts. With your methods, killing them will be child's play." Wang Daoyuan transmitted his voice back. "Then what will you do? It won't be easy for you to escape from 3 mid-grade Grade 2 demonic beasts." Wang Xian replied, "I've always shown myself as a mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. My true cultivation has long been at the 8th level of Foundation establishment. If I wasn't afraid that killing these 5 bastards would attract even more demonic beasts, I would have dealt with them long ago." Wang Daoyuan only nodded and flew towards the southwest while Wang Xian continued flying towards the south. The demonic beasts and demonic birds were just as Wang Xian expected. A low-grade Grade 2 demonic bird and a low-grade Grade 2 demonic beast turned around and chased after Wang Daoyuan. The low-grade Grade 2 demonic bird was the black-feathered eagle. It was the weakest among the eagle species. Its innate spell was only to strengthen its body and strength. Compared to the terrestrial demonic beasts, the demonic bird's body was weak. No matter how strong it was no different from having no innate spell. The low-grade Grade 2 demonic beast on the ground was called the forest leopard. Its fur was a bit like a silver cat. Its innate spell was a movement technique. It was known for its speed and agility. It could cross mountains and pass through forests as if it were flat ground. Wang Daoyuan fought and retreated at the same time. Soon he had escaped 500 kilometers away. Suddenly, a person stood on top of a mountain in front of him. That person smiled and said, "May I know the name of this Daoyu from the Wang family? My name is Feng Linchuan. I would like to make friends with Daoyu." This person was the weakest among the 6 Foundation establishment cultivators of the Red Beard Bandits. Wang Daoyuan pointed at the demonic bird behind him and asked, "Is this how you make friends? If you really want to make friends, let me take care of these 2 beasts first. It won't be too late to make friends after that." Feng Linchuan smiled and said, "If it weren't for these 2 beasts, would Daoyu give in so easily? Let's not beat around the bush. I'm a wind cultivator, but I haven't found a suitable magic weapon. The flying sword under Daoyu's feet is just right. As long as Dao Yu hands over the flying sword, I won't make things difficult for Dao Yu. Wang Daoyuan sneered and said, "You think you have the right to threaten me with these two beasts?" With that, Dao Yu directly condensed the image of a golden rock. At this time, the golden rock's wingspan was already more than 10 feet. The golden rock's wings were densely covered with 500 to 600 feathers. Moreover, the feathers were now much bigger than before. When the black-feathered eagle saw the golden rock's image, it let out a cry of fear and its feathers trembled. The golden rock was a divine beast among eagles. When eagles saw the golden rock, it was like seeing an emperor or a living ancestor. How could they not be afraid? Wang Daoyuan controlled the golden rock's image and used the feather blade. He released 2 feathers and attacked the black-feathered eagle. These 2 feathers were extremely fast. Before the black-feathered eagle could react, the feathers pierced through its heart. After letting out a cry, it fell from the sky. The power of this feather was already comparable to a low-grade level 2 golden saber talisman. However, the spiritual power consumption was only about 70% of the golden saber technique. The flying forest leopard below was very clever. When it saw the black-feathered eagle was killed, it turned around and ran. In less than 2 breaths, it disappeared into the forest. Chapter 160. Wang Daoyuan still had to face Feng Linchuan, so there was no point in killing this big cat, so he let it go. He turned to Feng Linchuan and asked with a smile, "I've long heard that wind cultivators are known for their speed and agility. Especially the wind escape technique. Its speed is second only to the thunder escape technique, and its agility is far greater than the thunder escape technique. How does it compare to my golden rock feather? There are still more than 500 feathers on my golden rock phantom. Do you want to give it a try?" Feng Linchuan still looked confident and said with a smile, "Dao Yu's Dharma spell is very advanced. It should be the work of a golden core senior. If fellow Daoist was at the 3rd level of foundation establishment like me, I wouldn't even have the time to escape. I definitely wouldn't dare to fight against you. Unfortunately, Dao Yu is only a 1st level foundation establishment cultivator. Such a powerful Dharma spell must consume a lot of energy. I wonder how long Dao Yu can last. As I said before, as long as you hand over your flying sword, I won't make things difficult for Dao Yu." Wang Daoyuan didn't answer and directly used the feather blade. 2 golden feathers flew towards Feng Linchuan. However, the 2 were dozens of feet apart. No matter how fast the feathers were, it would take some time to reach them. This time was enough for Feng Linchuan to use the wind escape technique. Feng Linchuan easily dodged the attack. The 2 feathers hit a wash-basin-sized rock and cut it in half. Wang Daoyuan attacked a few more times, but all of them were dodged. He didn't dare to get close. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun if the enemy's wind escape technique closed in. Who knew if this Feng Linchuan had any powerful attacks? If this continued, he was confident that he could take down his opponent. However, this place wasn't far from the Gourd Valley. Enemies could come at any time. It wasn't a good idea to continue fighting like this. After thinking for a while, he changed directions and left the mountain. No matter how powerful Feng Linchuan's wind escape technique was, it could only be used on the ground. Cultivators below the Golden Core realm couldn't fly. Although some escape techniques could allow one to fly for a short time, such as Shi Zhenbong's meteor escape technique. But it was definitely not as flexible as on the ground. Now that he had changed directions, Feng Linchuan would either have to give up the chase or fly on his sword. While flying on the sword, he couldn't use any escape techniques, so his agility was greatly reduced. As long as Feng Linchuan dared to chase after him, he would be a live target in the air. Feng Linchuan hesitated for a moment, but still decided to chase after him on his sword. The flying sword beneath his feet was only a 2nd-tier low-grade sword. Furthermore, from the looks of it, the material of the sword wasn't that great. It couldn't be compared to the wind-shocking sword at all. There were very few cultivators with the 3 main attributes of ice, wind, and lightning. Naturally, there weren't many magic tools. It was very difficult for cultivators with mutated spiritual roots to come across a suitable magic tool. In the sect, cultivators with mutated spiritual roots were considered treasures, and it was not difficult to customize a magic weapon. But this Feng Linchuan was a rogue cultivator and a notorious Redbeard bandit. Where would he find a suitable magic tool? Even if a weapon refiner was willing to refine a Dharma artifact for him, He still had to worry whether the other party was using the Dharma artifact as bait to take the opportunity to capture him in exchange for the bounty. Thus, it wasn't strange that he had designs on the shocking wind sword. When Wang Daoyuan saw that he was chasing after him, he didn't hold back and directly threw 3 feathers behind him. Feng Linchuan hurriedly dodged, but he couldn't use the wind escape technique in the air, so his agility was greatly reduced. Although he tried his best to dodge, his arm was still grazed by a feather. He didn't dare to follow too closely, so he had to keep a distance of 300 meters. He just followed behind without making a move. Wang Daoyuan sneered, "Daoyu wants to steal my magic tool, but why don't you dare to come forward? How about I let you take back the Golden Rocks Phantom and then we can fight?" Feng Linchuan was unmoved and didn't move forward. He just kept a distance of 300 meters and followed behind. At this distance, the Golden Rocks feather blades were almost useless. If he continued to maintain the Golden Rocks Phantom, it would only be a waste of spiritual energy. He took back the Golden Rocks Phantom, then changed direction and drove the flying sword with all his strength, heading straight for the Golden Goose City. At this time Feng Linchuan was a little anxious. Once Wang Daoyuan entered the Golden Goose City, it would be completely impossible for him to seize the flying sword. Not only was there a Violet Palace Realm cultivator guarding the Golden Goose City, there were also more than 20 Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators. In addition, there were large magic tools for guarding the city and all kinds of array formations. Even a Violet Palace Realm cultivator wouldn't be able to do anything, let alone an early-stage Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. Feng Linchuan also sped up and chased after Wang Daoyuan. After all, his cultivation was 2 levels higher than Wang Daoyuan, so he was slightly faster than Wang Daoyuan when he used all his strength to drive the flying sword under his feet. When the two were only 300 meters apart, Feng Linchuan used the wind sword technique and condensed a long sword with wind spiritual energy and stabbed at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan was already prepared and he already held the 5-dragon soul chasing whip in his hand. His divine sense had already locked onto the opponent, so Feng Linchuan's every move couldn't be hidden from him. He turned around and lashed out with the whip, and the tip of the whip directly shattered the long sword formed by the wind sword technique. Then a stream of energy shot out from the tip of the whip and went straight for Feng Linchuan's face. This whip technique was based on the sword techniques of sword cultivators, and the energy it released was very similar to sword chi. Its lethality couldn't be underestimated and it was also very fast. Feng Linchuan hurriedly dodged, but unfortunately he couldn't use the wind escape technique while flying on the sword, so his speed was much slower. However, as the leader of the Red-Beard Bandits, he was also a veteran. When he saw Wang Daoyuan's whip, he knew that this attack wasn't simple, so he used a second-grade low-grade earth armor talisman while dodging. The energy from the tip of the whip arrived in the blink of an eye. The shadow of the khaki-colored armor was directly shattered. The remaining energy of the whip hit his left shoulder. Fortunately, he was protected by the defensive spiritual armor, so the energy couldn't penetrate it. He only felt that his left shoulder was punched and it hurt a little, but it wasn't serious. However, Wang Daoyuan's whip really scared him. It broke 2 second-grade spells and was still able to injure him. He didn't dare to continue fighting, so he turned around and tried to escape. Wang Daoyuan had been chased for a long time, and it wasn't easy for him to suppress his opponent. Feng Linchuan wanted to run, but how could Wang Daoyuan let him do as he wished? He also turned around and chased after him. Before he reached the Foundation Establishment Realm, he could already release a whip in half a breath, so there was no problem for him now. Due to the characteristics of soft weapons, the attack speed couldn't be increased infinitely. 3 whips in a breath was already the limit. Even so, this speed was enough to make most opponents unable to resist. For example, Feng Linchuan was already beaten silly. He had also cast spells many times to counterattack, but the usually powerful wind attribute spells had become weak in front of Wang Daoyuan's whip. Fortunately, his defensive spiritual armor wasn't low grade, and it was still intact after taking a few whips from Wang Daoyuan. However, he was shaken by the remaining force of the whip and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Flying on the sword, the two's speed was about the same, so there was no way to increase the distance between them. Moreover, he had to constantly use spells, so he couldn't escape at all. Otherwise, he would be treated as a live target by Wang Daoyuan. Feng Linchuan wasn't a brute. He knew that he couldn't win in the air, so he didn't want to fight to the death. He wanted to land on the ground as soon as possible and use the wind escape technique to avoid the attack. He rushed to a mountain diagonally below him on his sword. Wang Daoyuan wouldn't let him go so easily, so he followed behind and whipped him. After taking 5 or 6 whips and spitting out 5 or 6 mouthfuls of blood, he finally landed on the mountain. Chapter 161. Wang Daoyuan followed closely behind and landed on the mountain peak, lashing out at Feng Linchuan again. Although Feng Linchuan was heavily injured, his reaction was still extremely fast. He used the wind escape technique and dodged the attack. Wang Daoyuan couldn't keep up with the speed of 3 whips per second. After such a long time, he had used up more than half of his spirit energy. He had to slow down and lashed out once every 2 breaths. Seeing Feng Linchuan's fatigue, Feng Linchuan felt that his chance had come. Taking advantage of the gap, he used wind escape to rush over and kill him in one blow. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense had been watching him, so how could he let him succeed? He used cloud escape to dodge the sneak attack. He even turned around and lashed out at him. Feng Linchuan didn't make any defensive preparations and took the whip head-on, flying 10 meters away. Before he recovered, Wang Daoyuan took out a jar of 100-year scarlet blood wine and drank a few mouthfuls. After refining it a bit, his spirit energy recovered to 70 to 80%. This made Feng Linchuan, who wanted to rely on his cultivation and spirit energy to win, lose confidence. After drinking a few mouthfuls, he recovered more than half of his spirit energy. That jar of wine was enough to exhaust him to death several times. He no longer had any hope of winning and took out a few middle-grade level 2 spirit talismans, saying, "I'm not good enough and I'm not Daoyu's match. But I still have a few middle-grade level 2 spirit talismans. If we really fight, it's hard to say who will win." Wang Daoyuan took out a stack of middle-grade level 2 spirit talismans and asked sincerely, "Is this the spirit talisman Daoyu is talking about?" Feng Linchuan was naturally knowledgeable. With a sweep of his divine sense, he knew that the 50 to 60 spirit talismans in Wang Daoyuan's hand were real. His face turned ashen. His trump cards were like cabbages to Feng Linchuan. What was there to fight about? After a while he sighed, saying, "I overestimated myself. If you want to kill me, do as you please." Wang Daoyuan laughed and said, "My Wang family has always minded our own business. Why would I want to kill Daoyu? This time I participated in the encirclement of your side because I was forced by the Liang family and had no choice. From the beginning to the end, the cultivators of my Wang clan have not killed a single one of you. The Wang family has no intention of becoming enemies with you, so please do not invade our Wang family's property. Of course, if you insist on starting a war with my Wang clan will naturally accompany you." Only his own family knew that he had disguised himself as a Liang clan cultivator and killed the Red-Beard bandits. Things that outsiders didn't know about could be treated as if they had never happened. With that, he took out a pill bottle and tossed it to Daoyu. "Here are 10 second-grade rejuvenation pills, enough to heal Daoyu. As for this shocking wind sword, I only use it as a means of transportation. If Daoyu wanted it, there was no harm in giving it to Daoyu. However, this is something left behind by my ancestor, and as a descendant, I dare not give it away so easily. Please forgive me, Daoyu." Feng Linchuan had thought that he would die for sure, but not only did he not die, he even received a bottle of pills. He was overjoyed. "Daoyu is too serious. This time I was greedy and took the initiative to cause trouble for Daoyu. If it wasn't for Daoyu's magnanimity, I would already be dead. I can't repay you for not killing me. When I return to the Gourd Valley, I will advise my brothers not to become enemies with the Wang family." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands. "Then I will have to trouble Daoyu. I will take my leave." With that he flew towards Gold Goose City. After resolving his conflict with Feng Linchuan, Wang Daoyuan finally let out a sigh of relief. If he couldn't resolve this matter and the Red-Beard bandits became enemies with his family, he wouldn't be able to survive. All of his family's properties to the north of Jade Spring Peak would be gone. Even if those properties were gone, the Wang family wouldn't suffer a great loss. However, the family's path to the elemental mystery realm would be cut off, and they wouldn't be able to move ordinary family members there. It would be best if they could resolve this matter peacefully. The Liang family should face the Red-Beard bandits themselves. After flying for dozens of miles, Wang Daoyuan sent a message to the family head, telling him that he was safe and asked if he was safe. The family head replied that he had arrived at Gold Goose City safely. Wang Daoyuan felt relieved and was no longer in a hurry to travel. At this time, it had been 4 to 6 hours since they left the Gourd Valley. The cultivators who broke out of the encirclement should have escaped to the south of Mount Huiyan. Since the Red-Beard bandits swept through the Liang family's properties 7 years ago, all the families south of Mount Huiyan were on high alert. Once the Red-Beard bandits came to the south of the mountain, all the families would unite to fight against them. Therefore, the Red-Beard bandits didn't dare to openly cause trouble in the south of the mountain. The cultivators who broke out of the encirclement would be safe once they reached the south of the mountain. Wang Daoyuan followed the southern foot of Mount Huiyan and headed east. After flying for a few hundred miles, he suddenly heard the sound of fighting coming from behind a small mountain in front of him. He flew over to check what was going on and saw 3 blue-eyed azure wolves attacking an old cultivator. The 3 blue-eyed green wolves were second-rank low-grade demonic beasts, while the old cultivator was at the 7th level of the Foundation establishment realm. Although the old cultivator's cultivation was much higher, his injuries were very serious and he wasn't a match for the 3 blue-eyed green wolves. His body was stained with blood and his Taoist robe was tattered and soaked with blood. Wang Daoyuan didn't recognize who he was. However, looking at the spells he used, it seemed to be the inheritance of the Meng family of the Ash Cloud Peak. This old cultivator was most likely the Grand Supreme Elder of the Meng family, Meng Qingshan. The Wang family and the Meng family had supported each other for close to 300 years. When the Grand Supreme Elder of the Meng family was in trouble, Wang Daoyuan naturally had to help. He flew towards the 3 blue-eyed green wolves with the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip in his hand. With the 5 elements whip in his hand, he directly smashed the head of one of the blue-eyed green wolves. The remaining force of the whip hit the stone under the wolf's feet, causing countless fragments to fly. The fragments hit the other 2 wolves, causing them to let out a series of miserable cries. They no longer cared about their dead companions and turned to run. Seeing one of the blue-eyed green wolves dead and 2 fleeing, Meng Qingshan heaved a sigh of relief. He was already nearing the end of his life. Even if he recuperated well, he didn't have many days left. Now he was seriously injured. Previously he was holding on with a single breath. Now that he was relieved, he collapsed on the ground powerlessly. Wang Daoyuan used the rejuvenation technique. His wood attribute spiritual energy had vitality, so the effect of using the rejuvenation technique was quite good. However, for someone like Meng Qingshan who was at the end of his life, he could only let him live a little longer. Meng Qingshan regained some spirit and looked at Wang Daoyuan saying, "Little friend Wang, thank you for saving my life. However, my time is up, so I'm afraid I've wasted little friend's spiritual energy in vain. While I can still speak, I have some last words. I'll have to trouble little friend to help me pass them on to Meng Chongfeng. Although I've already explained the important matters before coming here, I'm still worried." Wang Daoyuan took out an image recording pearl saying, "Senior Meng, if you have something to say, please say it. This image recording pearl can record both images and sound. I'll pass this image recording pearl to Meng Chongfeng and Daoyu." Saying this, he used his divine sense to activate the image recording pearl and walked into the distance. Meng Qingshan thanked Wang Daoyuan, then began to carefully explain some details, as well as his worry about Meng Chongfeng taking over the family so early. Finally, Meng Qingshan said, "Chongfeng, although your cultivation talent isn't bad, your ability to take the helm can only be considered average. You lack foresight and are easily confused by the benefits in front of you." The rise of the Wang and Yang families is already set. The Liang family will find it difficult to compete with them. The Meng family has been friends with the Wang and Yang families for nearly 300 years. If we follow the 2 families, the Meng family can rely on the legacy of our ancestors to rise again. If we board the wrong boat, I'm afraid the family will be ruined in your hands. This old man won't be able to die in peace." Saying this, Meng Qingshan breathed his last. Wang Daoyuan put away the image recording pearl, cut down a few trees and made a coffin. He simply put away Meng Qingshan. Chapter 162. Wang Daoyuan released Yun Yi from the spiritual bead space, found a few vines and tied Meng Qingshan's coffin to its back. After all, the Wang and Meng families were old friends, so they still had to respect Meng Qingshan's body. It was not appropriate to directly put it in the storage bag. This place was more than 2,000 miles away from the Meng family's Ash Cloud Peak. Foundation establishment cultivators could only fly on their swords, so their ability to carry weight was very weak. Carrying a coffin, they couldn't fly on their swords, and walking for more than 2,000 miles was time-consuming. With Yunyi here, it was natural to let it do the hard work. At first, this guy was the overlord of the space, bullying whoever it caught. Later, when the fierce blood pigs reproduced, it was beaten until it didn't dare to land. There were golden wings in the sky. Yunyi's fighting ability in the air was incomparable to that of the golden-winged goshawk, so it was bullied until it couldn't fly. Living in the space was very suffocating, so it always wanted to come out for a stroll. But Wang Daoyuan had been busy refining pills and making talismans, so he didn't have time to take it out. It was also a troublemaker, so he didn't dare to let it out casually. At this time it finally came in handy. With a body of 5 to 6 meters long, its flying speed and flexibility couldn't be compared with the golden wings, but it was good at carrying weight. As long as it came out to play, it was willing to carry a big stone, let alone a coffin. After restraining Meng Qingshan, Wang Daoyuan sent a message to the patriarch, telling him about Meng Qingshan. After the patriarch learned about it, he didn't wait for him and immediately set off from Jinyan City, returning to Yuchuan Peak. 3 hours later, Yunyi arrived outside the Ash Cloud Peak. When the Meng family members on the Ash Cloud Peak saw a huge white tiger flying in the sky outside, they were so scared that they immediately opened the mountain protection array. Wang Daoyuan's flying speed was much slower than Yunyi's. After half a cup of tea's time, he arrived at the Ash Cloud Peak. He shouted to the cultivators on the peak, "Meng family cultivators, don't panic. I'm Wang Daoyuan of the Wang family. This Yunyi tiger is my spiritual beast. Your family's grand elder died in Mount Huiyan. I'm here to return Senior Meng's body." Moments later, the Ash Cloud Peak's protective array closed, and a person flew out on a flying sword. It was none other than the Meng family's patriarch, Meng Chongfeng. He led Wang Daoyuan to the Ash Cloud Peak and bowed to Wang Daoyuan. "Thank you, Wang Daoyuan, for bringing back the Grand Elder's body. I am unable to repay your kindness. Please accept Wang Daoyuan's respect." Wang Daoyuan immediately held him up and said, "The Wang and Meng families are like lips and teeth. It's only right that we help each other. Let's first attend to Senior Meng's funeral." Wang Daoyuan removed the coffin from Yunyi's back and handed it to the Meng family members. He put Yunyi back into the spirit pearl's space and glanced around. Meng Chongfeng immediately understood and led him to the reception area before dismissing everyone. Wang Daoyuan handed the image recording pearl to him and said, "Senior Meng was besieged by 3 blue-eyed green wolves. When I rushed over, he was already seriously injured and difficult to treat. In addition, he's already old. Even if I use the rejuvenation technique, I can only make Senior Meng leave behind his last words. Senior Meng's belongings are still on his body. When this matter is over, I'll return to the family first. When Senior Meng's funeral is over, I'll come to offer my condolences." Meng Chongfeng sent him out of Ash Cloud Peak before returning. Wang Daoyuan put Yunyi back into the Spirit Pearl's space and returned to Jade Spring Peak. At this time, the Patriarch had also returned to Jade Spring Peak. Wang Daoyuan arrived at the Patriarch's cave and saw that he was covered in wounds. However, his breathing was very stable, so he shouldn't have suffered any internal injuries. Wang Daoyuan was about to use the rejuvenation technique to heal him. The Patriarch stopped him with a smile and said, "You're usually quite quick-witted. Why are you so muddle-headed today?" This time the encirclement of the Red-Beard bandits failed. Every family has suffered losses. Now that you've returned, if I don't leave some injuries on my body, won't I attract hatred? Anyway, they're all superficial wounds. They'll heal in a few days. I've already announced to the public that I'm seriously injured and can't handle matters. I'll leave all the family matters to you and Shi. Go out, I need to recuperate." Wang Daoyuan left the Patriarch's cave and went to the general hall to help deal with some family matters. Soon the losses in this battle spread. The Liang family was the most miserable. They were chased and beaten by the Red-Beard bandits. One Foundation establishment cultivator from the Liang family died, one was seriously injured and one was lightly injured. One Foundation establishment cultivator from the affiliated family died, and the rest were all injured. Of the 3 people from the Yang family, 2 were seriously injured and 1 was lightly injured. 2 people from the Yang family's close family died in battle, including Meng Qingshan. Of the 10 Foundation establishment cultivators from the Netherworld sect, 3 were seriously injured and 6 were lightly injured. The formation master surnamed Wu died in battle. There were more than 30 people who went out this time, and there were only a few who didn't suffer any injuries like Wang Daoyuan. This time the Liang family was going to lose a lot of money. Just compensating the injured cultivators would cost tens of thousands of spirit stones. In addition to the few who died in battle, it would be another tens of thousands of spirit stones. The most difficult one was still the formation master surnamed Wu. Liang had borrowed him from the Netherworld sect. It wasn't a matter that could be settled with tens of thousands of spirit stones. The value of a third-rank formation master wasn't low. Moreover, formation masters in sects all had masters. How could a third-rank formation master's master have a low status? This time, Liang wouldn't be able to report back to the Netherworld sect. However, the Liang family didn't gain nothing this time. The Yang family and Netherworld sect cultivators worked together to kill the mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator of the Red Beard Bandits. This time both the Yang family and the Netherworld sect were dragged down by the Liang family. Compared to a single Foundation establishment cultivator, the Liang family killing dozens of Qi refinement cultivators was nothing. The Yang family obtained a few docks and the lucrative job of guarding the clear glass market. However, they offended the Red Beard Bandits. It was hard to say what they gained or lost, but at least for now they had profited greatly. On the Wang family's side, Wang Daoyuan tricked Feng Linchuan. At the very least, the Red Beard Bandits wouldn't hold a grudge against them and they obtained a second-rank cinnabar mine for free. The Liang family suffered great losses, but with someone to share the burden of the Red Beard Bandits, they had a chance to catch their breath. 3 days later, the Meng family held a funeral for Meng Qingshan. This time the Ash Cloud Peak wouldn't be peaceful. It was hard to say if the Liang family would take advantage of the Meng family's weakness to bully them. At the very least, it was certain that they would refuse to pay the compensation of 10,000 spirit stones. The Yang family definitely wouldn't let the Liang family have their way. They would send a Foundation establishment cultivator to support them. As their ally, the Wang family couldn't just stand by and watch. This time Wang Daoyuan and Taigong, 2 Foundation establishment cultivators, went to pay their respects and support them. Wang Daoyuan represented the clan leader. Taigong and Meng Qingshan had been friends for more than 100 years. It was natural for him to send off an old friend. When the two arrived at the Ash Cloud Peak, the Meng family leader naturally knew that they were here to support him. He personally went to the Ash Cloud Peak to welcome them. Meng Chongfeng also asked Wang Daoyuan to release Yun Yi to thank her for carrying Meng Qingshan's coffin back. He specially bought a first-rank upper-grade demon beast for Yun Yi. Yun Yi ate her fill in the space. She only played with the demon beasts and didn't eat directly. After an hour, the Yang family's patriarch Yang Ziyuan came with Yang Yulin. At this time, Yang Yulin had successfully built his foundation. After bowing to the Meng family's patriarch, he ran to catch up with Wang Daoyuan. Not long after, the Liang family's patriarch arrived with 5 Foundation establishment cultivators. How were they here to pay their respects? They were simply here to fight. After the 6 Foundation establishment cultivators from the Liang family arrived at the Ash Cloud Peak, they ignored Meng Chongfeng and didn't bow to the deceased. They directly released their auras to pressure Meng Chongfeng. Meng Chongfeng only had 5 Foundation establishment cultivators, and 3 of them were early-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. They were at a disadvantage in terms of aura. Yun Yi was using its claws to tease the first-rank upper-grade demon beast when it felt someone pressuring it with their aura. It stood up and roared angrily. Even though its cultivation was low, its bloodline was still that of a grade 2 high-tier demonic beast. On top of that, it had a massive body and a resounding roar. Apart from Wang Daoyuan, the other Foundation establishment cultivators present were stunned. Chapter 163. When Yun Yi saw that the Liang clan had ill intentions towards its master, it walked behind Wang Daoyuan and stared at them with its tiger-like eyes. It was about 50 to 60 feet long. When it stood up, its head was about 20 feet tall, which was about the height of 4 strong men combined. Even 8 to 10 cultivators of the same level couldn't suppress its aura. It even purposely opened its mouth halfway, revealing its 1-foot-long canine teeth and licking its mouth from time to time. If a battle really broke out at such a close distance, Even a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator could be killed by Yunyi in an instant if they didn't have a high-level escape technique. Seeing that he couldn't take advantage of it, Liang Jiaxing snorted and said, "How can an animal be so impudent in Daoyu's morning hall?" Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "The animal is rude. Seniors, please excuse us." The people behind Liang Jiaxing were a little embarrassed. They came to pay their respects, but they didn't pay their respects to the deceased's family and directly used their aura to suppress them. They were the most rude ones. As the head of the Meng clan, Meng Chongfeng naturally didn't want to make things too tense. If a fight broke out, the Meng clan would be the one to suffer the most. He came out to smooth things over and said, "This tiger Yunyi carried the body of the Grand Supreme Elder back. I asked Daoyu to release it and use a demonic beast to thank it. I hope seniors and Daoyu can forgive me for my rudeness." He asked Wang Daoyuan to release Yunyi because he wanted to use Yunyi's might to intimidate the Liang clan. Of course he couldn't say this out loud. Wang Daoyuan also knew what he meant, but since he came to help, he would help until the end. Yunyi was also quite happy to receive an appearance fee. Liang Jiaxing also stopped pestering Yunyi and asked Meng Chongfeng, "How did Daoyu pass away?" Meng Chongfeng answered, "In reply to Senior Liang, after the Grand Supreme Elder broke out of the encirclement, he was chased by 3 blue-eyed wolves. When he was seriously injured, he was saved by King Daoyu. He passed away after leaving behind his last words." Liang Jiaxing turned to Wang Daoyuan and asked, "Little friend Wang, do you have proof that Daoyu was killed by the blue-eyed green wolf?" Wang Daoyuan knew that Liang Daoyu wanted to renege on the debt, so he didn't waste time talking nonsense with him. He directly blocked his words and asked, "Liang Daoyu, are you trying to renege on the debt? Not to mention that Senior Meng was killed by demonic beasts in response to the Liang clan's call. Even if you follow the Liang clan into the mountains and directly pass away, the Liang clan will not be able to renege on the 10,000 spirit stones." Liang Jiaxing was choked by his words, but he couldn't lower himself to bicker with someone who was more than 100 years younger than him. He could only explain, "I just want to ask about the cause of Daoyu's death." Wang Daoyuan sneered, "Senior Meng hasn't been buried yet. Liang Daoyu can go and see for yourself. Liang Daoyu can't even see the wounds caused by demonic beasts, right?" Meng Chongfeng led everyone inside to pay respects to Meng Qingshan's remains. Although the Meng clan had already changed Meng Qingshan into clean clothes, they still couldn't cover the wounds on his neck and hands. It was obvious that they were caused by demonic beasts. Just the exposed wounds could be fatal, not to mention that Meng Qingshan wasn't far from the end of his life. Meng Qingshan's death at the hands of demonic beasts could be said to be conclusive evidence. Liang Jiaxing was still self-aware. Previously he used his aura to suppress others, but in the end he suffered a crushing defeat. Now that he was in the wrong, there was no way he could win in a quarrel. He might as well admit that Meng Qingshan died at the hands of the blue-eyed wolves. He took out 10,000 spirit stones and handed them to Meng Chongfeng. There was no point in him staying any longer. After exchanging a few pleasantries with Meng Chongfeng, he was about to leave with his people. Wang Daoyuan shouted, "Liang Daoyu, my clan head is also seriously injured and can't manage matters. I hope that Liang Daoyu can send 3,000 spirit stones as compensation to Jade's Spring Peak as soon as possible." Liang Jiaxing's face darkened. He didn't want to deal with the Wang clan anymore, so he directly threw a storage bag at Wang Daoyuan. He used 20% of his strength in this throw. If an ordinary first-layer foundation establishment cultivator caught it, they wouldn't be injured, but it was inevitable that they would fall. Wang Daoyuan raised his right arm and stretched out 2 fingers, acting as if he was going to catch the storage bag. Liang Jiaxing's face revealed a smug expression, as if he could already see Wang Daoyuan being smashed to the ground by the storage bag. But unexpectedly Wang Daoyuan didn't catch it at all. Instead he flicked it with 2 fingers. The storage bag flew diagonally upwards and Yunyi caught it with her mouth. Liang Jiaxing's 20% spiritual energy was nothing to Yunyi's huge body. Yunyi obediently placed the storage bag in Wang Daoyuan's hand. There were 3,000 spirit stones in the storage bag. Wang Daoyuan could easily catch it if he really wanted to, but there was no need to expose his strength for nothing. Liang Jiaxing didn't stay to watch the show and left with his people. The people from the Wang and Yang clans waited until Meng Qingshan was in the coffin before leaving. Wang Daoyuan followed Taigong back to Jade's Spring Peak. Clan head Wang Xian summoned all the elders who stayed at Jade's Spring Peak to the executive hall. Wang Daoyuan rushed to the executive hall as soon as he returned. When the clan head saw him walk in, he smiled and said, "Since everyone is here, let's start the meeting. Today might be the last time I gather all the elders for a meeting." Everyone was a little worried. The clan head had previously announced that he was seriously injured and couldn't manage matters. Now that he said this, everyone thought that he was seriously injured and couldn't continue to be the clan head in the future. Wang Xian explained, "You don't have to worry. I only suffered superficial wounds before and I've already recovered. This time it's not a bad thing that I want to give up the position of clan head. I feel that my cultivation is about to break through to the 9th level of foundation establishment. In the future, I will focus on cultivation and strive to reach the peak of foundation establishment as soon as possible and try to open the Purple Palace." The peak of foundation establishment was also considered the 9th level of foundation establishment. However, just breaking through to the 9th level of foundation establishment definitely couldn't open the Purple Palace immediately. It still needed to accumulate. And the peak of foundation establishment was in existence that could open the Purple Palace at any time. Everyone was relieved after hearing Wang Xian's words. Wang Xian continued, "Therefore I plan to give up the position of clan head and concentrate on cultivation. What everyone wants to discuss is who should take over the position of clan head. There are 3 people who are suitable to be the clan head. They are Shi Daoyuan and Dao Chong. Dao Chong has been focusing on cultivation since he was young. He doesn't have enough experience and is still a little immature. There's no need to talk about Shi. The clan has nurtured him as the successor for decades, and he has gained experience in various industries. He's also very experienced in doing things. Naturally, he's suitable to be the clan head. As for Dao Yuan, whether it's his personality or ability, he's not inferior to Shi at all. There's no need to talk about experience. He's been wandering alone for more than 20 years. He's probably encountered more difficulties and obstacles than me. As for contributions, there are some things that must be kept strictly confidential. Only the 4 of us and the Grand Elder know. But what I want to say is that everyone here added up probably doesn't have as many contributions as Dao Yuan. Let's talk about what everyone knows. The Spirit Spring Cave was discovered by Dao Yuan, and the business with Green Willow Province was facilitated by Dao Yuan. There's also the Purple Gold Grass, Green Jade Bamboo, Spirit Restriction Silkworm, White Jade Spirit Mulberry and other spirit beasts. They were all given to the clan by Dao Yuan. If we add in the contributions that everyone doesn't know about, even if the clan empties everything to reward Dao Yuan, it's far from enough. Therefore, when choosing the new clan head, don't be biased just because Dao Yuan is young. If anyone has any opinions, you can raise them. Chapter 164. Wang Daoyuan didn't want to be the patriarch. Although the family's affairs were all managed by the Great Elder, the patriarch didn't have much to manage. However, most of the family's affairs required the patriarch to personally decide. From the relationship with other families to the work that each family member had to do, the patriarch had to know everything. Otherwise, if he made a wrong decision, the entire family would be unlucky. He cultivated the 5 spirit immortal art and would need to spend a lot of time looking for the other 3 types of spirit fire. After becoming the patriarch, he would have a lot of affairs to deal with and wouldn't be able to go out for a long time. Therefore, it was best for someone else to be the patriarch and for him to come up with ideas. Therefore, after the patriarch finished speaking, he immediately said, "Patriarch, don't bring me along. I don't want to be the patriarch. It's better to let the 12th uncle be the patriarch. My strength is in finding spirit objects. If I become the patriarch, there will be a lot of affairs waiting for me all day. How can I search for spirit objects? There's also a secret that I've been hiding from everyone. In addition to being a 2nd-rank middle-grade spirit talisman master, I'm also a 2nd-rank high-grade alchemist. Where would I find the time to manage the family's affairs?" As soon as these words came out, before anyone could react, 7th Uncle Wang Shouhong stood up excitedly and asked, "Is this true? Are you really a 2nd-rank high-grade alchemist?" Wang Daoyuan smiled but didn't answer. He directly took out a stalk of dew-congealing grass that he had harvested and stored for a long time. In his hand, he condensed a ball of flame with fire attribute spirit energy and roasted the dew-congealing grass to extract its essence. After a few dozen breaths, the dew-congealing grass turned into a pile of ashes. Wang Daoyuan's hand had an additional ball of transparent liquid the size of a longan. It was the essence of the dew-congealing grass. He smiled at Wang Shohong and said, "Seventh uncle, do you think my skills are okay? If you still don't believe me, I can refine a furnace of essence condensing pills with my bare hands." Wang Shohong shook his head and said with a bitter smile, "No need. Just this method of extracting the essence is much better than mine. He's at least a second-rank middle-grade alchemist. In addition, he doesn't use an alchemy furnace and extracts the essence of spirit herbs with his bare hands. His level is even higher. He should be a second-rank high-grade alchemist." The other elders were laymen in the field of alchemy, so they couldn't tell whether it was good or bad. Since Wang Shohong, an alchemist, said it was amazing, then it was really amazing. The patriarch thought for a long time and said, "I thought that since you have made such a great contribution, when you become the patriarch, everything in the clan will be handed over to you. You can take whatever you want. Since you don't want it, then I'll have to properly count your contributions. Before I abdicate, I'll make one final decision. You'll get 30% of the benefits from your contributions to the family. This is what you should be given according to the family rules. For those that need to be kept secret, half of the profits will go to you. Whether you want it or not, the family will keep it for you. You can use it whenever you want. You can do whatever you want with these spirit stones. You can even throw them into the river. Also, you can't just ignore everything. Pick a position yourself. While I'm still the patriarch, I can promise you that you can have any position you want." Wang Daoyuan was very satisfied that he didn't need to be the patriarch and didn't need to be restrained. He pondered for a long time and said, "Patriarch, since you mentioned the issue of the family rules, I'll talk about my views on them. I just want to say that the rules of our Wang clan and the vast majority of other clans are simply terrible. I've always wanted to reform the family rules, but I was busy with the matter of building my foundation and didn't have time to care about these things. Since Patriarch wants me to pick a position, I'll pick a position that can propose reforms for the family." Ninth great-uncle said, "The rules of all the clans I know are more or less the same. Everyone is like this." Wang Daoyuan replied, "The biggest problem is that everyone is like this. It shows that no one is making changes. There is nothing perfect in this world, and the same goes for the clan rules. There are always loopholes that can't be fixed no matter how much you fix them. Every loophole in the clan rules, once discovered and exploited, will cause harm to the clan. If this loophole isn't fixed, then the damage it causes will accumulate and the damage to the clan will become greater and greater until it can destroy the entire clan. Only by constantly patching up the loopholes can the clan have a chance of surviving. As far as I know, there isn't a single clan in the state of Zhou that can surpass 10,000 years. Even in the whole of Beiyuan Zhou Xian, there isn't a clan with 10,000 years of history. There are very few clans with more than 1,000 years of history. Most of the clans are gone in a few hundred years. One or two clans can be said to be an accident, but if all the clans are like this, then all the clans have made similar mistakes. This similar mistake is the clan rules." The patriarch nodded and said, "Since you want this position, then I'll give it to you. I'll appoint you as the reform elder. In the future you'll be in charge of changing the clan rules. Since Dao Yuan isn't willing to be the patriarch, then Shui will be." Dao Yuan, tell us roughly how to change it. According to you, the clan rules are related to the life and death of the clan. We have to know how you want to change it. Wang Daoyuan replied, "Since we're all in the upper echelons of the clan, then we'll change it from top to bottom. We'll start with the elders. First of all, there's a problem with the selection of elders. If one's cultivation reaches the peak of qi refining, or one of the 100 arts of cultivation reaches the second level, then one can become an elder. These people can make more contributions to the clan, so it's understandable for them to become elders. But those who don't have good cultivation talent and aren't good at the 100 arts of cultivation don't mean that they can't make great contributions to the clan. For example, the 10th granduncle has been running the store for many years. His contributions aren't any less than those of you sitting here, maybe even more. However, he can't become an elder. This is unfair to him. Therefore, I feel that when promoting an elder, we can't just look at the cultivation level and the 100 arts of cultivation, but also at the actual contribution. If you're a good shopkeeper, you can also become an elder." Everyone nodded. What he said was indeed reasonable. In the hundreds of years of the clan's history, there were more than one or two people like Wang Zhihe. They had devoted their whole lives to the clan and made greater contributions than many elders, but they didn't have the chance to become an elder. This was unfair to them. Seeing that everyone agreed, Wang Daoyuan continued, "Also, the authority of each elder must be changed. The current situation is that most of the clan's affairs are placed on the first elder and the patriarch. If the other elders have something to do, they can just send it to the first elder. Then the patriarch makes decisions and the first elder executes them. The patriarch and the first elder have endless work to do, while the other elders have nothing to do. Therefore, my suggestion is to classify the clan's affairs. Mining, spiritual plants, alchemy, raising spiritual beasts, transportation, trading, finance, and so on. Set up an elder for each. Under each elder, set up a few stewards. Of course, it's more or less like this now, but the authority of the elders and stewards can't be separated. In the future, the daily affairs of all aspects will be decided by the elders and executed by the stewards. The first elder will be directly in charge of the elders and stewards. If they do well, the first elder will reward them. If they don't, the first elder will punish them. The first elder will also be in charge of the appointment and dismissal of personnel. The appointment and dismissal of each steward position will be decided by the first elder and the elders directly under the stewards. The major affairs will be decided by the patriarch and the elders after discussion. If there's a big disagreement, the patriarch will make the final decision. The patriarch has the highest authority to appoint, dismiss, reward, and punish. He has the right to overturn the decisions of the first elder and the elders. In this way, many things can be dealt with quickly and the efficiency will be much higher. The system was compatible with the production level, and all cultivators were regarded as mortals. The production level of Beiyuan Zhou Xian was very similar to that of the feudal imperial heir of Wuxia in his previous life. The structure proposed by Wang Daoyuan was also a simplified version of the 3 provinces and 6 ministries system. Some modifications were made and a layer of the clan's skin was put on. Each elder was equivalent to the minister of the 6 ministries. The first elder was equivalent to the prime minister, and the patriarch was equivalent to the emperor. Because the number of cultivators in the clan was limited, they couldn't support too much of a frame. The current simplified version was enough. In the future, they would make changes according to the actual situation of the clan. Chapter 165. Since no one objected, Wang Daoyuan continued, "In addition to dividing the elders' authority, we also need to classify the elders. If the elders want to manage the family's affairs, they need to have strong management skills. This is not something that every elder has. For example, second brother has reached the peak of Qi disciple and has become a family elder. However, he is only suited for battle and not for managing the family's affairs. This kind of elder is an honorary elder and has the treatment and status of an elder. They can also participate in the family's decisions, but they can't manage the various affairs. An honorary elder can also be a steward under other elders and have the treatment of both an elder and a steward. This is also my next suggestion. The treatment is divided into 2 types. One is the treatment of a title and the other is the treatment of authority. Take second brother as an example. He is an elder and enjoys the treatment of an elder. However, he doesn't manage the various affairs, so he doesn't have the authority and treatment of an elder. If he manages a mine, he will have the treatment of a mine manager. There are so many changes regarding the elders. This is the framework of the family's power and the most important rule. Once this framework is set, the other changes will be carried out under this framework and it will be much easier to handle. If the elders don't have any objections, then we will redistribute the duties of the elders." Wang Daoxing stood up and asked, "Seventh brother, you've been talking about me for a long time. I just want to ask, how much is the treatment of an elder? You also know that other than fighting, I don't know anything else. It's not easy to earn some spirit stones." Wang Daoyuan asked, "Currently, how much is the monthly payment of the family elders?" "I haven't received an elder's monthly payment, so I really don't know. The family's finances have always been managed by the head elder." Ninth great-uncle replied, "Currently the family elders receive 20 spirit stones a month, the head elder receives 30, and the family head and grand elder both receive 50. The clansmen guarding the various industries receive 10 spirit stones. Talisman masters, pill refiners, spirit plant farmers, etc., all receive an extra commission. The family's current income should be much higher than when I first left the mountain, right? I remember that at that time, the family's annual income was only about 20,000 spirit stones. Wang Daoyuan asked. Ninth great-uncle was very familiar with these matters and said without hesitation, "These years, we have increased a lot of industries, especially the spirit objects you found. They have created a lot of value. Also, the food that you created, the business of the drunken immortal restaurant is also very good. Especially with the addition of the Green Willow State's source of income, the clan's annual income had reached more than 40,000 spirit stones. However, the spirit-forbidding silkworm had already reproduced 2 generations. The previous cocoons were not used for silk extraction, but for reproduction. Currently, the scale of the spirit-forbidding silkworms was already large enough. This generation could already be used to draw silk. However, the growth of the white jade spirit mulberry scale was rather slow. The mulberry saplings that were cultivated by cutting had a slow growth speed and a low grade. They weren't enough to feed the soul-sealing silkworms, limiting the scale of the soul-sealing silkworms. If there are no problems with the external environment in the next few decades or even centuries, the family's silkworm industry will grow larger and larger, and the income it brings will also be greater and greater. The spiritual mulberry that Wang Daoyuan found was called white jade spiritual mulberry because of its white jade color. Wang Daoyuan pondered for a moment and said, "Since the family's income has increased, then let's change the original treatment to that of a title." In addition to the benefits of authority, the benefits of authority and title were the same. The treatment of the patriarch and grand elder would be doubled. In the future, when the family's income is high, then slowly increase the treatment. This is all the content related to the elders' reform. Does the patriarch and the various elders have any opinions? Actually, this kind of reform was to increase the authority of all the elders. Previously, head elder seemed to have great authority, but he was tied down by daily trivial matters and did not have time to exercise his authority at all. All the authority was in the hands of head elder. The other elders did not have much authority at all. Those with authority did not have time to manage matters, and those with time to manage matters did not have authority. Now that the authority was divided, head elder and the patriarch would have greater control over the family. The other elders also had the authority to manage matters. In addition, the various elders' treatment had increased. Everyone had no objections. The patriarch smiled and said, "Since everyone feels that what Dao Yuan said makes sense, then I'll make the decision and decide to start the family's reform." Dao Yuan presiding over the reform involves all aspects of the family. He can't have no authority in his hands. Just giving opinions for the family's reform definitely won't do. How about this? The family will set up a punishment elder. If a clansman makes a mistake, it will be handled by the punishment elder. Dao Yuan has made great contributions to the family. Unfortunately, he is a junior and cannot directly take on the position of grand elder. Then don't be a reform elder. He will temporarily take on the role of punishment elder and preside over the reform. His status is the same as grand elders, and he has the authority to manage the other elders besides head elder. This is only when Dao Yuan himself is the punishment elder. The succeeding punishment elder can only manage the clansmen who have made mistakes. Alright, this matter is settled. My mission is completed. I won't care about the appointment of the other elders. After saying that, he took out a few books and a few jade slips from his storage bag and handed them to Wang Shui, saying, "Shui, the family's income and expenditure records, various industries and the situation of the clansmen are all here. From now on you are the patriarch." Everyone stood up and bowed to Wang Shui saying, "Greetings, patriarch." They bowed to Wang Xian again saying, "Greetings, grand elder." Wang Xian stood up and said, "In the future the family's matters will be handed to you all." After saying that, he walked out of the meeting hall. Everyone bowed in unison saying, "Farewell, grand elder." Wang Shui had been groomed as the successor of the patriarch for dozens of years. It was not difficult for him to exercise the authority of the patriarch. He sat on the main seat of the meeting hall and said, "Next is the division of authority of the various industries, and the appointment and dismissal of the elders." Dao Yuan continues speaking. "Let's discuss it together." Wang Daoyuan continued, "My idea is to separate the management of the various industries of the clan. Each industry will have a hall and the elders will be in charge of it. The spirit plant hall will be in charge of the planting and harvesting of all the spirit plants in the clan, as well as the management of the spirit fields. The medicine hall will be in charge of refining pills and storing spirit herbs. The spirit talisman hall will be in charge of the production of spirit ink and talisman paper, as well as the creation of spirit talismans. The mining mountain hall will be in charge of all the mines and forest farms. This is more complicated and can be further refined later. The transportation hall will be in charge of all the clan's spirit ships, as well as the transportation of goods and people. The commerce hall will be in charge of the business of the clan's various shops. The finance hall will be in charge of the clan's treasury and all the income and expenditure of spirit stones. The status of the various industries will also be reported to the finance hall. The punishment hall will be in charge of managing and punishing clansmen who have made mistakes. The last one will be the guardian hall. The various industries of the clan need people with high combat strength to guard them. In the past, the people guarding the various industries also managed the daily affairs of the various industries. In the future they will be separated. The guardian hall will be in charge of the safety and inspection of the various industries. If monsters or rogue cultivators sneak attack the clan's industries, the guardian hall will be responsible for protecting them. The management and operation of the various industries will be in charge of the other halls. The clansmen guarding the various industries are not allowed to interfere. This is all I can think of. If any of the elders have anything to add, please feel free to say it. In the future, when the clan's industries expand, we can also add more halls. In addition, each hall will also be in charge of the cultivation of the clan's younger generation. If the clansmen have talent in any aspect, they can be handed over to the corresponding hall to cultivate their abilities. In the future, when there are more clansmen, we can also set up a 100 arts hall to teach the young clansmen the various arts of cultivation. That you're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.